Good afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are and whenever you are, everybody. And we are here for another match in the Azure Dream Stars Tournament. I'm Lady Demi, and with me today...
Hello, I'm Hextree.
And we will be giving our runners the countdown to start off pretty shortly. And also, passing out links in the Azure Dreams Discord, which, if you become interested in this game as we are going, I sincerely recommend and checking out. Now, it is an unusual little mystery dungeon roguelike with some pretty remarkable features and a lot of unexpected detail.
Lots, definitely. Yes, so for those who haven't been following the tournament thus far, this is the semi-finals. It's going to be Czaj versus Resonaire. Whoever wins this match will go on to the finals of the Rising Stars tournament. And both of our runners here have definitely proven themselves so far. Czaj in particular has won all 5 of his games so far, so he remains undefeated. Resonaire has won 4 out of 5 games, so both of them came in the top 2 respectively of their groups and both progressed to the semifinals. And
Yep.
Lady Demi is just handling the countdown, I believe.
That's right,
So
I have gotten everything announced. So the original goal of the Rising Stars tournament, which is now entering its final phase, is to determine who will be the Rising Star. Was to get new runners interested and practiced in running. And so up until this exact match, it has been round robin, non-elimination until this match. That's where we enter a single elimination phase. What else is there to say? So, both of these runners have some pretty high experience, but it is worth noting, as always at the top of an Azure Dreams match, that may or may not result in actually beating the game, clearing the monster tower. This is a pretty punishing roguelike. And so our limits here are who can get the highest, the fastest within the hour given. They have as many entries as they need to take. And should it come down to a tie of who can get to the highest floor, it will come down to who gets there first. This is a punishing little game.
Yes, definitely. And for those who have seen past tournaments that we've had in the past, in previous tournaments we actually were forbidding re-entries. So for this Rising Stars tournament, we decided to allow re-entries because it's actually, well, for one thing, it's quite intimidating to tackle the tower in one go. So our runners will be able to leave voluntarily or involuntarily. Either way, they'll be able to re-enter the tower again with the experience they've gained, possibly with their items as well that they've managed to stick with, but at the very least, their familiars will get to keep their XP.
Right, the experience the player character will gain is not kept over across entries. That's one of the things that makes progressing through this particular roguelike unusual and difficult. There is progression across runs, and that is essential because the game is built around a series of ascending difficulty spikes. But it is not necessarily required. It's not required because runners can do it in a single run, but it's also not necessarily expected to do it in a single run. And progression comes in the form of items, if they're lucky, and their monster Q here, who is giving them the whole tutorial spiel and the initial couple of items that they get to form the core starter kit. A second entry will not have this set of items, but every first entry we will be seeing today, which will be 2 to 3, because this is a best 2 out of 3 to help balance out the difficulty of the RNG. Noting that there are a couple of skips of tutorial text, and we see Chai doing some of them by carrying that sword over, and missing others by listening to Kyun talk about traps and the elevator. But even though Resonaire didn't do any of them, I think he is still getting done with this first floor a little bit faster, and onto the randomly generated floors that make the tower. Each trip to the tower a unique thing, though we, sitting here, in judgment of them, will be able to see them run the same tower thanks to the derandomizing randomizer, which our community, and specifically programmer, has developed. It's a lovely little tool.
Yeah, so for those who are not unaware of the rand, it basically breathes new life into the game. You can do a lot of different variations. You can derandomize the game, you can randomize, add a new power, mix up the familiars. There's quite a lot of things you can do.
Yep, it can even give you infinite floors or access, well, not infinite, but a lot more floors than the 30 that the tower generally comes with, and can give you access to the extra hard secret special second tower, which got dummied out of the game somewhere in pre-release. And that's a fun little thing that we're not entirely sure what to do with just yet, but is a neat little feature to consider. There's a lot, and this game already in and of itself is a thing of perpetual new life, because it is a mystery dungeon. Every tower is distinct, and you never exactly know what's going to come at you, except that it's going to be mean.
Yes.
So these first couple of floors are pretty safe, relatively speaking. There's certainly room for all sorts of bad things to happen, but the monsters are manageable enough that they will probably be exploring all of these to try and get as much gear as they can, because that gear, in any percent in particular, is vital just in terms of how they are going to solve the problems that later levels of the tower, where they are massively outpaced, will throw at them.
Yeah, so we can see both runners have picked up a wooden wand. That would be a very good start, especially for floor 2. I see that Chai has opted not to put the wand on. That's a reasonable decision. He may be worried that it's cursed and may want to hold off for a better one later on. If it's cursed, unfortunately you're stuck with it until you decurse it before you can remove it again.
And you're stuck with a status debuff that the game never tells you about that lowers your accuracy, and that's also very unpleasant. So it might be that they wait for a while until it seems like they really, really need the extra power that even an entirely basic little wooden wand promote. Ooh, flame ball, that is very nice over there on Chai's side.
Yeah, I'd say already they're getting slightly better than average items that you would expect.
It occurs to me now at this point that while the controls say it is using this audio, or using Chai's audio because that is usable, I actually am not hearing that, and so I think we'll need to look this over while you keep an eye on things. Oh no. Checking on the Twitch restream, although the commentary restream doesn't seem to have that audio, the Twitch restream does, so we are good on that front. This is a really interesting soundtrack that you hear a lot of, and so it has a couple of different changes as you go up the tower. But it's almost hypnotic in a way.
Yeah, in all honesty, I hadn't even noticed that the audio wasn't playing, so it must just be my brain filling in the music, acting the play.
Once you've played it enough times, you kind of are able to summon it up entirely in your head.
Exactly, yeah.
So what they're probably hoping for, as mentioned, it looks like Resonaire has equipped that wooden wand, and it is cursed, so as it turns out, Chai has made the correct decision by not committing to it this early, though it's hard to say if he will find something better to commit to before he hits the first real difficulty spike. That's funny. I don't think I noticed that you can still use the menu to detect what item you're standing on when blindness won't allow you to know anything about what's going on around you.
I guess you can, yeah.
That is a puzzlement. There are a lot of things that this game never really adequately explains to you, and so as you run, you kind of pick up little tricks and a sense of what any given item the tower gives to you can do for you. Which ranges from the super edge case of usability to the fantastically useful for all sorts of things. What would they be looking for as they go through the first couple of floors here? Your ideal setup, what is it? Basically.
I would normally, well, I'm quite a fan of the leather shield, although if I find a diamond shield early on, I would probably take that at least for the first 5 floors or so. I would normally go for any wand, even wooden. So personally, if I had picked up that wooden wand, I probably would have equipped it, and I probably would have been stuck with a cursed wand. Other than that, any balls, any sands, just grab them. That's what I would personally normally go for.
Yeah, it looks like Resonaire, in equipping thing that year earlier, has at least found a pretty useful steel shield. We will see. I think around the 5th floor is the last floor I'd want to be on without equipping the best of whatever it is I could find, even if I'm not super sure about it.
Yeah.
Because the 5th floor starts to see the Manoivas, who are pretty tough little monsters, particularly for people entering the tower on the first time. Ooh, another flame ball. They found quite a few of those so far. That's pretty handy. A gulp wand, not really the wand you want to see. See, there is an elemental triangle in this game. Water beats fire, fire beats wind, wind beats water. Your starting monster, Kuhn, and therefore his mixture magic is fire elemental. Manoivas, and basically every monster you find from floor 6 to floor 9 is going to be water elemental, and that is why it is the difficulty spike, and why you want to probably do less exploring and more committing to your gear. Oh, there's that leather shield for you.
Yeah, that's true. And once you get to floor 10, usually you can take a bit of a breather, because then you're faced with fire types, not as much water.
Yeah, they are pretty heavy-hitting monsters on those floors, but because they are fire type and you have at least neutral damage, you're able to defeat them before they can utterly murder you. And that's really what you want. You want to avoid any fight that you're not sure whether or not you can defeat it before you murder it, or you know you can't.
Yeah.
We see Chai using a bit of AI-1 strats to get in like a little bit of an extra hit. You can sort of manipulate other monsters by setting Kuhn to attack any hostile enemy that enters its range, setting that so that the other monster steps forward and right into Kuhn's range, and that can give you a little extra damage.
Yeah, it does end up very effective when you're kind of just at the right level to beat monsters, but just not quite enough. One extra attack does a lot of damage. This
is a game without a lot of really big numbers, and so small things like that does add up. We see Resonaire dealing with the first of the threats of the water floors, this floor 6 to 9 range, the blue, which are still manageable, but kind of just on the edge of manageable. Ooh, a Deeker scroll. That is coming in handy for him, at least. though he is still cursed person. Oh, interesting. He is using the Gulp Wand for its elemental advantage against all these water monsters. Even if it doesn't necessarily match up against Cune, and he's lucky that that's not cursed too, because when you hit the fire floors, you don't want that. Oh, and the fire sword that they both picked up and Chai decided to run with because that's about as good as a wand, is also cursed.
Interesting. I wouldn't be too worried about that. I mean, aside from accuracy loss, a fire sword is a pretty reasonable thing to be stuck with.
Yeah, it does offer a little bit of an attack bonus from Ko's side alone, and will particularly become handy if, say, Cune dies. Oh, and Chai steps on a confusion trap that I think Resonaire managed to not trigger in that first room, or at least not trigger quite as late when that bloom was right towards him. Luckily, you can still use items normally when you're confused, you just can't walk or attack very normally, and those inputs get a bit scrambled.
If you're lucky with a bloom, then sometimes instead of attacking, they'll just use their turn to try to brainwash Cune, and they fail because Cune happens to have the trait unbrainwashable.
Yep, most monsters do have some special trait or ability, and Cune's is only good against blooms. It's a little bit sad, really.
Yeah.
On the other hand, he is a perfectly serviceable little monster, and maybe of particular note, he has a great MP pool, because that is one of your more valuable resources. Because it's always going down.
So Resonaire got quite lucky there. One of the scariest things about a frog trap, well now he's facing this situation. So when you are a frog, you can no longer command your familiar, and they will no longer even follow you if a monster comes near. They'll opt to go fight the monster, which you don't want them to do, because your monster is not very tanky on his own. He needs you as backup.
Well,
but he managed to survive this one.
What's around? In this case, he lucked out running only into a balloon while frogged. And the balloon is pretty manageable by Cune. It hits a little harder than you'd expect, but like you can see, Chai is pretty nervous and puts his monster back into its bag when he sees that balloon coming. I don't think he intended that. He just... I don't actually know what he was necessarily thinking there. It's not really clear to me. It was probably a misclick while he was trying to put the monster down, or maybe use some trick or another. Oh, we are seeing a U-boat peacefully asleep in that little room over on Resonaire's side. That is scary. That is a scary monster. No one really likes to fight U-boats. Though luckily they are moderately manipulatable. Yes, they can be manipulated around like that because they always want to get the first hit on you. And they can't do that if you move on top of them pretty much, because they are walk-throughable, I guess, passable. They don't have regular monster collision while they're underground, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you can occupy the same square as them, although if you walk onto the square normally, they will intentionally move to another square because they want to rise up again.
Right. Chai also using that decurse scroll, though not switching away from his cursed fire sword.
Yeah, I mean, at this point there's not much better than the fire sword. The Scarlet Wand would give a bigger percentage boost, but right now that extra damage from the Flame Sword is still pretty good.
Yeah, I think one could also try for, if one found a wand with some special effect, that would also work, but the Fire Sword, same type of attack bonus with Cune's Extra Magic, is about as good as a wand's bonus with Mixed Magic. Oh, lucky elevator spawn on floor 8. It looks like Resonaire, though, is going to poke around a little bit, see what there is. Even though it's a pretty dangerous floor to be on. You still have blooms, U-boats, Madamoebas. Are you seeing clowns, or do you not see clowns at your line?
Yeah, I don't think they're on this floor now.
Yeah, that checks out. The disadvantage of the fire sword is that it can rust, while wands cannot. Actually, I think... Did Chai... Oh yeah, Chai has the leather shield on, that's right.
Yes,
I think
Resonaire picked up a leather shield, but I think he decided to put it down again, so he's keeping whatever shield he has now, I don't remember.
Ooh, an egg! So I guess exploring that floor 8 might have some good stuff. It's a little bit hard to say. But he does have a truth glasses, so we will know. It is a Manoeva egg. That's... it's alright. It's...
Speedrun, not like choose. It's a cool monster to have. It's
a cool monster to have. There are some fun glitches you can do, and Skeeth is informing us that it is floor 8. We can see clowns on, though both of them moved to floor 9 without seeing them.
Oh yes, Chai's on floor 9 now.
Yep. Chai took that elevator and did not pick up that Manoeva egg right away. Or rather, is not going to pick it up. We know it's there, but diverging paths occur. Chai does have a little bit of a head start on this floor, and also 2 Oleans in the same room. That is nice. Oleans are maybe not one of the more versatile items, but they are very useful. They are basically, you can just say goodbye, get rid of one monster. And while the tooltip describes it as a thing you give to your monster and gets rid of that, they're more useful chucked at a monster, and they're gone forever. Goodbye. You don't have to worry about them anymore.
So you go to Monster's Fire and find out running rampant in the village.
Yeah, who knows what happens to them. I think in the Game Boy Color version, there is a Game Boy Color version, Tune might express that it kills them. But we don't get EXP, so it's not the useful sort of killing. But then again, EXP is rapidly outpaced. We see Resonaire taking a bit of a lead just from enemies he didn't fight, and luck he took in terms of which directions he went on floor 9.
It's a bit of a pickle here.
Not that much of a pickle, I would say.
It's fine as long as he doesn't go to tape.
Right, okay, I did not see the U-boat right away due to the camera angle. That makes everything scary. That makes everything he was facing exponentially. Oh, and there's another U-boat. That's what he wants right now. That's what really would make him happy, I'm sure. This is bad. This is bad for him. Oh, and there's a clown coming down that hallway. That's... Whew, that is quite the party Chai has around him. I would start getting nervous about how he is going to get out of this mess. Maybe use that ice rock ball. Maybe this is a place where distracting the monsters with an ice rock ball would be a good idea.
Yeah, that might be the case, because they won't do much damage to the ice rock at this stage, and the clown sometimes even tries to low down the ice rock.
More importantly, the monsters will stop following you if they have an ice rock ball to target. But he does at least, but then again, he manages to make it out without expending that ball charge, without expending that resource, so that's pretty handy. Oh, what did he find there? A steel shield. But it's cursed and -1. That is some bad luck these runners are having in terms of cursed items. They're not normally this cursed.
Wands in particular have a far lower curse rate than swords, I think.
And that's right, it is significantly lower, though it is still possible as we have seen today. Chai, I think, put away, I think it was his fireball. He has been using it fairly liberally, but he does get a flame ball, a pillar ball, which is the same but better, pretty much. I think balls are... Oh, this is not fun. This is not a good layout to be encountering a bull troll in, and Kyun, of course, goes right where you don't want Kyun. As he sometimes does. This is why I think Chai especially is fond of picking up Kyun and carrying him around just so that he always knows where Kyun is. And that has its own downsides, but going for the pickup on that dream and getting it so he doesn't have to deal with that little intersection pretty much at all, that is some very good play there.
Yes.
So this is around the part where they will have a lot more opportunity to explore, to try and check and see what it is that they have. They still have to be a little bit cautious. Basically, every floor past the 5th floor on your first run is a floor that the tower doesn't want you being on alive right now at this point in your game. And so, the damage is hefty and that HP runs out really fast. But it is still manageable, particularly when it's not in a massive pile-up or you have the resources. And they have been pretty lucky with resources so far. They have some pretty fat inventories here.
Yeah, I would say so, yes.
Here, probably going to toss away, I would say probably one of the spare herbs, but it looks like going to feed the pita fruit and push up their monster's MP some more. This is around the point where I start really being vigilant about Kyun's MP, because this is around the point where if you've been using him reasonably, it might start running low enough that particularly I find Dreamin's putting you to sleep and then Kyun running out of MP while you're unconscious is just not a pleasant thing, and is a thing that is too likely to happen. Oh, it looks like Chai is not going to hang around floor 11. He is going straight up. He has the elevator, so he is going to run with that. That's a little bit unusual, but I think is a manageable risk at the very least.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what your inventory looks like. If you think you've got a good amount of stuff that can't really be swapped out for better things, then yeah, maybe just keep going.
Yeah, some little bit of levels would be nice. Some little bit of levels would be nice, particularly if they want to find the blue collar on this floor, maybe hatch their Palumpa, fuse it in, and do water Kyun. But it's not strictly necessary, and in some cases can slow you down if you're worried about your pace. See what I was saying about Dreamin's putting you to sleep?
Yeah.
They are monsters that are more hassle. Chai does get that blue collar. He can fuse his monsters together if he wants to take the time and do that. And there are certainly advantages. Pretty much all of the threatening monsters, the really threatening monsters anyway, are water or fire, and so getting neutral at best with them is pretty good. Good is a strategy a lot of people.
Yeah, and it becomes even stronger a strategy if you're already carrying lots of fireballs, because then, you know, the element you're afraid of, wind, can be killed with fireballs.
Yeah, and they do certainly have the inventories for that. We'll see if Chai is interested in doing that going forward. Or once he finds that elevator, which Resonaire has already located, but I think that might mean he might not go looking for the blue collar. We will see. Yep, looks like he is going on up. Ed, that is a lovely, lucky elevator spot there. And there, that they'll both be running into, assuming Chai doesn't somehow die in this last floor, in this last room or so, which is certainly possible. It's not very likely, but because certain things like traps are triggered based on random numbers that can't be seeded in the way that, say, trap layouts can be, it is entirely possible that something really unfortunate happens on the way to the elevator. And that is the sort of luck that makes Azure Dreams challenging and fun to run.
Yes, definitely. In some cases, there could even be traps on the elevator's position.
Or, for example, something like what happened with Resonaire could happen. But luckily, they are both getting that elevator luck. And we see on the 14th floor, the elevator on the spin-in. That is one of the nicer things to happen, though it looks like Resonaire is going to poke his head in around just a little bit because he can see some rooms very close by. Oh, egg. Floor 14 egg, that could be a Garuda, that could be one of those things that is very, very fun to run. Resonaire almost had the chance to play with one in the match last night, but it didn't end up working out that way. Very unfortunately. He ended up accidentally wind crystalling out right after he hatched that egg. And that was just tragic. But maybe he will have the luck up with that tonight. And we could see him really show off one of the more... I think unless you are part of this community, unless you have seen a lot of Azure Dream runs, you might underestimate Garuda's abductability as it can be applied to the player. Because... Number one, the game never tells you exactly how much MP things cost, and most monster command abilities, like U-Boat Scout, for example, costs a lot of MP. And so it could be assumed that Abduct is too expensive. It's not too expensive, it's very affordable. You can just teleport around willy-nilly at about the same cost as Mixture Magic. And that's absolutely bonkers.
Even less, I think. I think it's like a fifth of the unit, or
could be. Still, it's not a whole FP, and that amounts to it being a lot of a lot of abductions for your buck. Czaj doing a little bit of AI1 to get and letting Kuhn take some of those Garuda hits, because Garudas are wind elemental, and so can be defeated pretty handily. And after successfully dodging like the previous couple of floors, Czaj taking this very cautiously for some reason. He's checking everything for traps in case this is, I guess maybe he was hoping for a Roche. You always hope for a Roche. It's one of those things that you secretly hope every time you see a fruit on the ground. But there's also potential for it to be a PETA, and that would be very handy. Resonaire making it up to floor 15, and I assume... I'm not sure what Czaj was taking quite so long to figure out. That was a pretty long pause for a monster that is not super threatening. It's not unthreatening, it's just not remarkably threatening. But yeah, this is a very neck-and-neck race. They are pretty much at the same elevator at the same time. Czaj with the tiniest, 1 second, maybe not even a full second onto that floor 16, but with a little bit slower loading time. Yeah, he is just saying goodbye to that troll. Well, not going to deal with that. And that instantly makes this room much more manageable.
Yeah, that was good.
With both of the Garudas asleep, I think careful control, and so near the exit, I think careful control could let him handle this without really too many problems.
Yeah, it seems he wants to fight. I would have walked out.
Yeah, on the other hand...
Even the Garudas.
Yeah, it looks like walking out was for Resonaire maybe not the best of ideas, as he gets pretty much immediately pincered by monsters that if he'd taken them sort of one at a time when they first arrived, maybe he could have managed. On the other hand, Czaj is sort of taking his time to figure out what he can do to get out of this situation with as few expenditures as possible, which is maybe sometimes not the best idea. Sometimes it might be better just to use the resource so you don't have to worry.
Yeah, the balance between speed and resource is very difficult to manage in this game.
Yeah, frankly, you spend a lot of time looking at what ultimately happens to you and going, oh no, oh no. Oh, if only I had used this, that, or the other. It's not going to help me if I'm dead, and that is a tough lesson to learn, and relearn, and relearn, because hope springs eternal, basically. Resonaire uses star glasses to get a full sense of this floor, but is going to look around it a bit more thoroughly. This does have some rare monsters that can spawn, like the Barong, which is wonderfully handy. It's like a gachapon machine. You put an item in, it gives you a randomly assembled item out, and it looks like Chai is probably picking up this coin thinking, oh, wouldn't it be nice if I could turn this coin into whatever I wanted? Or whatever random chance grants to me, but any runner's fantasies, because Barongs theoretically check rarity, except that the check is broken. So, oh wow, that is a lot of Garudas down there on Chai's side. That is a Garuda party. It does look like Resonaire gets to that elevator first. Going to wait, regen his HP, hope for a Barong. You never know. But probably not something you want to raid around for forever.
Yeah, the Barong payoff tends to be quite low. Like a rush fruit. I've tried farming Barong and it takes hundreds of tries before you even get a rush fruit. You might get stuff like Holy Scrolls, Holy Bells, which is good, but it's debatable whether it really pays off if you're spending the time to farm them.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if you luck into it, that's always super fun, but if you don't, que sera, sera.
You get balls from the Barong. Unfortunately, they don't have the same number of charges they would have in the tower. Usually they only have 1 or 2 charges.
Which is a wonderful thing for our folks at home to remember, and hope to remember if they ever end up in this situation. Certainly I know a lot of people who run this game or in chat. I know that maybe a lot of people who have never heard of this game and become interested in it are in chat. And if that's the case, then be sure to check out the Azure Dreams speedrunning Discord. We have all variety of resources, tools, regularly occurring events. I know that since a de-randomizing randomizer has been set up for the Game Boy Color version of this game, that community is starting to do weekly rando races, and that's really exciting too. I will drop the link in chat for anyone who needs to check it out. Now that I have done the blatant shilling for it. Anyway, that is, again, one of those things that, if you're not expecting it, can catch you off guard in a bad way. Ball charges are one of those things you need to be a little bit careful about, not just when you use them, but how you keep track of them and where everything is when you use them. Generally, it's nice to give yourself some space. Try running into the Picket, a monster that starts around these floors and lasts a little while. You know, they are pretty weak, but they can steal from you, and they can double attack, and those things combined just make them very unpleasant. And, like, some of that has to be Manoeva's, right?
Yeah, pickets. Yeah, if you run into too many pickets on the floor, they can really slow you down a lot and drain Kuhn's MP as well, because he's taking at least 2 direct attacks per picket.
Yep, that is, I think, something where I think in a way pickets are more difficult for speedrunners than for regular players. In the sense that you don't necessarily always have time to track them down if they steal something good. You don't have a lot of room for other attempts. And
if you've turned Kuhn to water, then actually it takes 4 direct attacks for Kuhn to kill Picket if he's water type. So that can really slow down.
Oh, clown egg. That's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. I think at this point it's a bit... It's a little bit too much time to invest, though I guess Resonaire feels differently. Resonaire likes some ranged mixture magic and some improved spell levels, and so is probably going to hatch this clown. Did we see him actually get the blue collar? I know we saw Czaj do so.
Yeah, I don't remember for Resonaire.
We'll find out, I suppose, once he hatches this egg. This is a weird space in which to be doing it. Normally you see people hatch eggs by, though not on the elevator, so it's a little puzzling.
I guess it's not too bad, because he's got, either way, depending on which direction the monster comes from, he has an escape route in that loop there.
That is true, that is pretty handy. It looks like he's realizing he might have just gone, oh, I don't have the blue collar. Oops.
Well, it could be that he may just want to have Clown by himself. I mean, Clown is pretty good on his own as well.
True.
Ouch. Holy Bell, that's...
You
always want to have at least one Holy Bell on you, especially in the race.
Those are nice. They can clear out a room. It looks like he is thinking he has the Gulf Wand. There are all these water elemental monsters, particularly the arachnes on these floors and the vipers on the next couple of floors. He's deciding, yeah, that's gonna work for me. And I cannot blame him for that. That just cuts through these Manoivas like a hot knife through butter.
Yeah, seems pretty good. And is he using the Golf Wand?
He is, in fact. He never has taken it off or switched. And that might be part of the edge, because that same type attack bonus is a big bonus that you don't always get a chance to use. It'll be interesting to see what he does when we get to other floors that are a little bit less water monster heavy, and frankly, wind element becomes a detriment once you get to places with some heavy fire monsters. That said,
so Steve just mentioned weapons shouldn't affect Clown mix. Isn't that only for the ranged attack, Skeef? I thought if you're in melee, doing the melee magic, then they would affect. That's correct.
Yeah, I'm not clear about that myself. It's very possible they don't, in which case, well, he might not know that, because that is an obscure bit of information the game never tells you in any way. It's one of those things you kind of have to watch and see how the game itself... Okay, see that seat in that doorway on Resonaire's side? That is absolutely a Manoiva. 100%. Or at least 99.9%. There you go. And now we know. For the most part, items do not spawn in doorways. Sometimes items will spawn in places they shouldn't, because procedural generation is a little bit weird like that sometimes. But for the most part, if you see two items side by side, and one of them's in the doorway, the one in the doorway is Manoiva. Using its tricky new ability to pretend to be various items. This is still an incredibly close race here. Neither runner has really misstepped, and they are neck and neck.
Yeah, it's impressive considering Resonaire has also occasionally taken time to explore a floor after finding the elevator, and also stopped to hatch the egg as well.
Yeah. Okay, so the wind version doesn't have a distinct melee hit. As you can see, we can use it in melee, and in fact you need to direct command to use it at range, but it's still the same spell, it's still Thunder Wave.
Yeah, I thought that when you were in melee range, it just counts as a melee type attack for the purpose of the mathematical calculation of damage, but we'll have to find out later.
I'm inclined to agree with Skeef's stream on this. I'm willing to bet that because it isn't, say, like a Thunder Sword, it doesn't have the regular thing. And, like, that wee dog is something that if you were using Tune, he could possibly fight. But using a clown, no go. Not friendly. But yeah, it's very possible that Resonaire has made the same damage calculation mistake that you and I made and doesn't really realize that the Gulf Wand doesn't matter for the clown's purposes. But he has taken the lead and now has entered 420 aka Viper Town.
If it is just range attack, then I'm very impressed with the damage, because I've tried clown before and I always get really bad damage, like usually 20 or less damage. So
well, as you can see on Resonaire's side, he is in fact getting 20 or less damage against that wee dog.
Yeah, I guess the elemental effect is stronger with the range attack. With the elemental boost.
Is probably pretty formidable, and certainly that is some lovely information on from Stream that it counts as a hit from the clown rather than a hit from you. So if you give the clown on the Barong's double X EXP trait, you can gain double EXP, or at least your clown can, from doing that mixture magic even at melee. Though it is worth noting that if you have a Barong, what are you doing fusing it to a clown? You have your very own gachapon machine. What are you thinking? Stop, don't.
I always thought the Barong's double XP thing was not something... That is one situation where the double XP thing actually helps. I guess if you're using Arachne, then it might help absorb Arachne. You want Arachne to be the one with the finishing blow. But...
Yeah. It is worth noting that Resonaire finds a Scarlet Wand on 422. Once he gets out of the Viper Town, we might see him switch to Kyun, or maybe he'll make that clown into a fire monster. Oh yeah, that's a good point. Skeepstream pointing out that you could do it the other way around and get the clown spell and double mixture magic level onto the Barong, which is much better. You get to keep all the things that are fun about the Barong and all the things that are fun about the clown. And we see Resonaire switching to Kyun because those blocks don't care that much about damage that isn't fire damage. Water damage is basically nothing to them. Right. Oh. Also handy, the Barong's hidden poison spell that you can get after fusing it. It does have that same mixture magic, and that's one of those edge cases where you might not know that even if you've played the game for a long time, unless you've specifically looked it up, because how often do you find a Barong egg? Not very often.
No, it's like 1% chance or something like that.
Right, the number of floors you can find it on are pretty limited. It's not a thing you regularly expect to see. But with that Scarlet Wand, Kyun's fire magic will do a pretty big boost. That is the best case scenario for a fire Kyun. And that is a nice room. That is a nice little treasure room that takes some inventory manipulation time, and that will hopefully let Chai catch up and keep this race incredibly close. Those at 46 minutes, they are still no more than 2 floors apart. That is fantastic. Okay, we see Resonaire switching back and forth to get the jump on whatever monster is available. In this case, Vipers, who are normally very scary. We don't need to indicate how easily he handles them is not what, for example, Chai will be thinking about. Chai decides to burn an ice rock ball. Ooh, lucky leather shield dodge. Oof. that hurts. That hurt Kune's attack? Oh no, wait, correction. He has named himself Kune and his monster Co. So it's lowering his attacking power, not his monsters. Okay. Glad we sorted that out. Because Vipers hit very hard. We saw just how much damage that did to Chai's HP. And also can lower attacking power, and that has few recoveries from, even if it's not the biggest deal. They're scary if you have a fire elemental monster. If you're using wind elemental, so like Resonaire is, that goes down pretty easily. Yeah. Okay, looks like Chai is going to show off an unusual thing about Viper AI, which is that Vipers, I feel like Resonaire might know, but might not necessarily know how to actually use that. That it has to be done via correct demands but yeah, one unusual thing about Vipers, they can eat eggs and will be distracted if you throw an egg in a room where they have visibility with it. That they will go and get it and have a nice little snack of it. You can get the egg back by killing them. Chai's not going to do that.
Yeah, I don't think the timing quite worked out as he had hoped, because one of his key attacks missed on the Viper. I think he was hoping to be able to take out the Viper on his trip.
Yeah.
Now he's lost an egg, unfortunately.
Yeah, though at this point, I think that was his Kalimpa egg, and at which point the egg bomb from that egg isn't worth as, oh, that is a lot of items down there.
I think Kalimpa hits quite hard as an egg bomb, still.
It's pretty good. It's certainly not the worst egg bomb in the world, but it's no longer...
As fire.
Right. And it's a bit of a tricky thing. And how useful it can be will vary a little bit from circumstance to circumstance. Certainly, it's impressive he hang on to it this long. Chai, I think, taking his time, maybe thinking about something, trying to figure out where to go, but that is just letting Resonaire finally expand the gap between them. Getting up to floor 27, that is a really impressive climb under any set of circumstances, especially in one go in a race like this. With time on the clock, Resonaire could go pretty far if his sprint up the tower works out. I think that this is certainly a pretty viable run. He still has a lot of different resources.
Yeah.
And at this point, it must be really hard to say what is necessarily going on. On the other runner's side. Did they have better luck than you? Did they have worse luck than you? Did they have the same luck? But it turned out differently? Ooh, a cursed Scarlet Wand on Chai's side. He did not find the uncursed one that Resonaire did earlier, and that's unfortunate, though I think he's still probably glad for it.
Yeah,
and
at this point I
has
too worried about it.
all those bonuses. It's still the best wand for his particular setup. So, wouldn't stress too much.
Yeah, I mean, in about 5 floors, he'll probably not be fighting too much anyway.
Yeah, damage builds pretty quickly. Oh, that fireball is out of use, and that is the way you want to do when you know that one of your balls is running low on charges. You want to take the time and use it while there's still a gap of distance. You can still adjust your plan to accommodate whatever is coming directly at you. That clown really has put in a lot of work. Now, see, this was a situation where I think if he knew how to use Clown's Mixture Magic, he should have probably done that. The range on that might be something he knows theoretically exists, but doesn't quite know how to get to work. Or possibly he doesn't know it exists, theoretically or otherwise. No, that's not what you want. That's not what you want have happen. And depending on exactly your turn order, that could go pretty bad. Whew.
Yeah.
That's a pretty strong hit there. Their necklaces are nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, so when the Napla spawns in the floor, I think he starts off with about 80 HP, but not full HP. So as he sleeps, he increases to about 120. So, well, not as he sleeps, but even as he walks around, it increases to about 120. So as time goes on, the Naplas has actually become stronger.
Floor 30, that is just like 10 floors within the top of the tower. It would be absolutely thrilling to see him manage to, with some elevator luck, I think he could go all the way. We could see a full tower clear. That would be really exciting, and I hope I didn't just jinx this. It's very possible I just jinxed it. Ooh. Very nice. Probably still... Oh, and the clown does evolve into a more formidable monster. That is something that certain monsters do. Generally, it is monsters with spells already unlocked that evolve on their when they reach level 20 or so. Huh. This is an interesting time to switch over to Tune. Well, I suppose we are probably getting back to a point where there are a lot more fire monsters hanging around. And
on the next floor, there's probably going to be one of those tyrants.
Yeah, those are pretty spooky. And also, one of the little bits of story that Azure Dreams happens to have, that is, Beldo, he killed your father. He wants you to come and face it. Because, you know, why not, right? Once you kill one family member, you kind of have to kill them all, or it's just going to become Vengeance Quest.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the story of Azure Dream. That's, like, pretty much all of the story that directly pertains to Ko and the tower, and I think you left him on AI1 there, Resonaire. I think you left him on AI1. And that's pretty much all the story that pertains to Ko and the tower, but not all the story that there technically is. Like, everything else is sort of czaj getting nervous, wanting to make sure nothing bad comes at him in the form of a trap between him and the elevator. That is a good point. There isn't a Vengeance Quest until the dumb villain gloats about it, though he does have a reason to want you to come and get him, besides the fun of murder. Your father sealed up the ultimate egg using the blood of the strongest monster tamer, that is to say himself, and only an equivalent monster tamer can unseal it, so he wants your blood.
Yeah, I mean, a casual player would probably take about 16 hours or so before they even would get to that 31st floor and see that scene. So for a good chunk of time, they have no idea what your actual quest is.
Well, actual quest, as the game's initial premise sets out, is become a great monster tamer like your father, and make a lot of money to save your family from poverty and this whole town from, like, a slow down sink, as the monster-based economy isn't really doing all that great.
So you managed to solve that by creating a casino, which seems to just create money out of thin air. That's creating
all sorts of tourist attractions, a racetrack, a casino. There's a little bit of a town building, bigger temples, better looking parts of town, meeting and talking to the girls and going through their individual storylines. Also, you can refill the awesome pool after it got stolen by things from the tower, because basically almost all quests that aren't based on the number of times you've entered and left the tower are based on finding something in the tower to solve the problem of the day. Or it's money.
Yeah.
And so that's more or less the game and story of Azure Dreams. Resonaire using a fireball to take out that golem, they are really powerful hitters. You don't want them to be attacking you under any circumstances, and they can do so from range, though it does take them a little bit of time, and that little bit of time can be pretty good. Resonaire, I think, playing it very safe, using the camera to check the corners. He knows how close he is. He knows how little time there is left. He might be feeling somewhere between very confident that, hey, he's made it this far. Even if Chai has been able to clear the tower, maybe Chai hasn't. On the other hand, he also is so high up that anything could destroy him in the blink of an eye, pretty much. If he lets them. And that's gotta be pretty scary. Chai making it up, getting the same little bit of story, and we'll also see that surprise killer spawn in after Beldo leaves. It's actually possible for Beldo not to spawn if it is a trap room, because, you know, I actually am not entirely clear on the mechanic, but essentially the game sort of counts Beldo in its trap budget, is I think how that works out.
Yeah, something like that. It's like if there's a trap room or a monster den trap or something like that, it's possible you might. I think I got it once in all my time of playing Azure Dreams. I've had the.
It is extremely unlikely to happen. Then it is a true rarity. But Azure Dreams has you going through so many towers that, oh, this is not a friendly room. Luckily, enough monsters are asleep that he can figure out what he is doing in this accursed place. I think that clown is going down. Nope. Manages to duck Shot out of the way, and then he lucks out to the elevator. This will probably bring the round to a close, 37-33. That is a great score. I might ask if he's interested in seeing if he can go all the way, because he is so close.
Be reasonable, yes.
Yeah, he is on. There are only 2 real floors left. I will alert Chai certainly, and alert them both about the results, and let them see if they want to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, if he manages to get to, I don't know if Resonaire's been to 40 before, but if he does, that'd be a great personal achievement.
That would be fantastic, and like the goal of the run.
Actually, to that, any games played using the randomizer are ineligible for the leaderboards, but certainly it'll give PP at the very least.
Right. I am letting them know the state of affairs in terms of the state of the match. Certainly also, if Chai can make it in the time Resonaire is playing, he is certainly welcome to give that a whirl. It's not unthinkable.
Yeah.
Well, and that would be a real thrill to see, is what if both of these runners who prior to this tournament didn't have sub 1 hour times on the any percent board clear the tower in just a little bit over an hour? That would be really exciting, provided that maximum doesn't utterly demolish Resonaire. The good thing is that while they are
1 hour is a tough time to beat. Like my PB is 57 minutes. I think I'm at the bottom of the group that is sub 1 hour.
That is still very impressive. Really, this is just really impressive. I think Chai has either bagged Kyun or lost him, But it probably doesn't matter. He probably doesn't want to do any fighting if at all possible. Well, because everything is fairly intimidating, and I think it's interesting that Resonaire is still using the clown even though pretty much all of the formidable monsters in these parts are fire monsters. Like, I think the maximum is, I know the dragon is, the glaciers are. The glaciers are water. But that's still a relatively small amount, and this becomes why we don't often see wind monsters being used. Besides, of course, it being random if you even get one. I think the golems might be wind, though, because they fall pretty easily yeah, a fire attack, and that makes them kind of unusual. You don't see a lot of heavy hitters in wind. You see a lot of tricksy monsters that have weird gimmicks in wind.
That seems to be the thing, yeah. The wind monsters tend to be the ones with tricky abilities.
39. Oh man, you can do this, Resonaire. You got this. Probably. Certainly the tower could, this last floor, say, no, we're not letting you go any further. But no, there it is. There's the elevator. Resonaire wins round one and clears the tower. GG, no stopping this clown car. Okay, I will let China
just hit the egg just for like personal achievement, but it doesn't really matter either way.
Yeah, okay. Hey. While we could also try and let Chai see, I don't think anyone would really mind, we do have a little bit of a schedule to keep, and so it's one of those things where I'm not sure. We have another Titan Slayer, we have another floor 40 clear in this tournament, which is absolutely thrilling. To see. Okay, he's so close. I don't think anyone's going to mind if, while Resonaire is hitting his way through the text boxes for this final battle, where, by the way, when Resonaire can make Kyun, or rather, Beldome can make Kyun into an arm. That's not weird at all. But on the other hand, Resonaire hasn't used Kyun in quite some time, and this battle is more or less scripted for its early segments. Ooh, an egg. That's very nice, but we'll never know what it is.
If you use glitched entry to enter the tower without ever having met Kyun, you still get him appearing here.
Yep, I guess he was secretly following you up the tower or something. Because his plan to, like, meet up with you on Beldo's behalf and guide you here utterly failed because you entered by going over the wall of the pool? Which is how glitch entry works. But from his perspective must be really weird. And yes, okay, I think Chai can make it. If he chooses to go the right way, he will make it to 440. He did not go immediately the right way, and that would tell us what that egg is. But that's probably not... No, Binding Ball, that's a much more practical use of it. But he is so close that I don't really mind waiting. We do know where the elevator is, and it's down that... There he is. He is getting to it. With any luck, he will be able to deal with that dragon in just enough time to get to that elevator. Yeah, that holy bell will do the trick. Come in handy. We have a double clear for this first match of the semifinals. That is just fantastic.
In previous tournaments where we had the veterans playing, you know, this still doesn't happen often.
Yeah, no, this is an one tower clear is unusual. But this is a tournament intended for first time, or for early runners of the game who don't have that sub 1 hour time, and two of them have managed in this same tower to get them up to with floor 40 in about an hour. That is really fantastic. But now it is time to leave all of that excitement behind us and move on to the second seed and see whether this is very kind or very cruel. Because the tower is never going to show you the same face twice. Okay, it looks like Resonaire's seed is good. And we'll be see Chai getting his seed up in just a moment. But that was certainly hype.
So it's part of the difference in strategy there as well, like with the use of the clown, which is not something we see often. Resonaire also skipping the elevator a couple of times to search the floor a bit more, even in floors I would consider to be quite dangerous floors.
That is what got him that crown, though, and that is what helped him win that first race. Ace. Even without really using one of the clown's signature things, I think it's going to be fun to talk to him about that and tell him you were relying on that golf wand with that clown, but actually the golf wand was completely insignificant. It meant nothing. You were doing that just based on your wits and your clown, and admittedly, the tower stocked them full of spell balls.
So the clown's mixed magic is always ranged, even when you're in melee range. Does that mean it never misses? I guess it's 100% accurate.
Huh. I have no idea. I don't necessarily know that it would be. I feel like I've seen regular spells miss sometimes.
Spells as in, like Brid, like the fireball?
Yeah, I think so. I think I've seen enemy monsters miss you on occasion with spells, and therefore I'm not entirely sure about that. Okay, Chai seed is good. We will see both of these runners advance to Ko's house. Ko's house, which will mark the place where we start our time. Resonaire is taking a minute, but will certainly be back by the time we see Chai moving on from this particular screen.
Yes. So while we have some time, does anyone in chat have some questions about this game? I see we have a lot of veterans appearing lately.
Yeah, we have started... Okay, there we go. Spell is 100% accurate unless they are based off of a % chance to do something like low blind or low down. And therefore, it stands to reason. Oh, Septic Tank, you have made it, unfortunately, just a little too late to see a double tower clear.
Well, if they get another double tower clear, that could be a first in the history of these tournaments, as far as I know.
Yeah, that would be. While double 40s have happened in, like, some of the higher level matches of other tournaments, this is certainly an exciting one to see for this tournament in particular. These two runners have improved in leaps and bounds and have become truly formidable runners that I think will have Sam Knight and Wugga shaking in their boots a little bit. Alrighty, they are ready, so it is time for countdown.
So I think it was Chai who was working on a script as well to calculate stuff like damage. So he knows a bit of detail about the damage calculation and stuff, which definitely helps.
Yeah, and now that you mention it, that is probably why we would occasionally see him stand perfectly still for a little while in front of the monster. That is probably him with his damage calc, making sure how that fight would go before making his decisions. It is a slightly slower strategy, but it is one that has served him very well.
Yeah.
Sand Knight, one of the kind of founders of this little community, which is as 20-year-old games go, a fairly new speedrunning community, only about a year and a half old. We will see them off. Let them come and face the tower, and let's see if this is as partially nice, partially a matter of skill, as accepting of their skill, let's put it that way, as the previous tower.
I knew he was going for brain.
Resonaire decides, with the quality of his opponent, not to give Kyun a name, just gonna get through the standard tutorial stuff as quickly as possible. I would not be surprised if it has Chai very nervous. Very nervous. When you reach level 40 and your opponent takes the run, it's like, oh, that's scary. Admittedly, he didn't reach 40 within the hour, but still, when you're in your 30s and your opponent takes the run, you know what that means. It means that there is nothing to be messed with in this. So, they will be, of course, getting the same copper sword, wooden shield, medicinal herb, pita fruit, palumpa egg, and fireball as they generally get, and we once again see Chai doing a couple of things to try and skip some tutorial text. Does not pull that skip off. It's a little bit fiddly.
Oh, I do appreciate this Pinky and the Brain dialogue on the right here.
Yes.
What are we going to do today, Pinky? Same thing we do every day. Try to take over the tower.
Yep. And frankly, most of the time, it's going to have as much success as Pinky and the Brain would. But as we have seen, anything can happen. Curry. Yes, there is a jokey dialogue option in the middle of sort of the resolution of one of the girls' routes, where all of the where instead of saying sorry, sorry, or hurry, question mark, or just tossed in there.
I saw Gene was playing the Japanese version a few days ago, and he told me the curry, the equivalent of the curry scene in Japanese is something like rice. I think the word they use is rice, like it's rice, or curry. I can't remember. Oh, Gene's in chat now. Maybe he can confirm.
That does make a lot more sense. I do approve, though. You know what? In fact, English translators, give yourself a round of applause, honestly, because they had quite the challenge with translating this game, in which they have to translate, besides that sort of quality of humor, an entire Japanese manzai routine that you can do in the theater.
Okay, so Gene's confirmed, yeah, it's comment, gohan. The thing is, I still don't get how it fits in with the discussion with Cheryl, but maybe it's some sort of idiom that is used in Japan.
Yeah, well, you have rice with curry, of course. And I think from there it's just a pun based on the pronunciation and readings of the words.
Maybe, yeah.
Or it's being similar.
Yes, something like that is true. Chai
so far is the undefeated runner. Resonaire has won 4 out of 5 games. Czaj has won 5 out of 5 games.
And there is another undefeated runner, if I'm not mistaken, though. Maybe I'm misremembering. Because last night was kind of wild.
Let me check.
In and of itself. Either way, they both have done a fantastic job, but Czaj certainly has had his foot on the throat of this tournament and gets 40 in his face.
So yeah, according to the brackets, Resonaire has 4 wins, 1 loss.
Yep. And that was, I think, last night. Night, so he is bouncing back from that absolute madhouse of a race last night with force. Of course, it is a statement. And about the quality of improvement. Also, Resonaire getting pretty bullied on the second floor. Which was over so very quickly on Czaj's side that I didn't even notice because we were thinking about Curry. and the joking Curry percent where people race to get to the Curry dialogue option the fastest.
Yeah, I was the first runner for that, but now Wooger is the world records holder, of course.
Right, we have both real... yeah, there is...
Everyone looking for Curry in the chat now.
Curry and, of course, the pressure that Resonaire has put on Czaj and that they both must be feeling because that was such a close race. And such an intense race.
Yes.
Czaj a little bit of an early lead because that second floor was again so fast that I blinked and missed it, and it's hard for me to say whether that was a deliberate speed thing, an accidental speed thing, Resonaire getting pretty bullied by some of those early monsters. Monsters on floor 2 just by being swarmed.
Samurai, what have you done? he's got rice curry stuck in our heads now.
I think I prefer to think of it as under pressure cooker. I'm sorry, I'll sew myself out. Oh no, and now we're into straight up buns. And it is a curious affliction, as Poulet-san puts it. Anyway, so far it's worth noting that this has a lot fewer spell balls than the previous race did, where they were just inundated with them. And that's a nice... It's certainly going to make it a little bit shakier in just having those super dense resources. It says, because... Ooh, steel swords. Nice. I don't think Resonaire has found that particular sword just yet. I know he switched to an iron sword when he found a decurse scroll. He thought, yeah, I'll see. It does a little bit more damage. That's worth something. It's certainly, not the item you most want to marry, but it's a little bit better than that copper sword, and at the end of the day, every little bit helps, because, oh, Scarlet Wand, I guess this tower is going to be immediately nice.
It's massive to immediately jump up the moment you find any wand, really, in the first few floors, but Scarlet Wand, definitely.
Yeah, this pretty much means that this 5th floor, except maybe Manaweeva's, Czaj can pretty much one-shot. And so this is a great opportunity to get a little bit of EXP onto himself. Even though, at this point, everything has sort of already given you the most a single level up will give you, but that's still really nice. That is the wand you want at the start of your run. And particularly uncursed, because in case you happen to find a stream wand and want to do water tunes or some other state of affairs, we certainly saw some interesting choices in terms of equipment and what that meant for what is worth his time on Resonaire's side last time. Or at least what he thought was worth his time. As it turns out, the Gulp Wand didn't make the clown especially useful. But it was still good, and it still worked for him. So, who are we? I ask you. Which is, of course, the thing, is that because there is so much luck, that is, number one, why we are seeking best 2 out of 3, and also, why VR runners can sometimes make moves that aren't necessarily perfect, but if they're good enough, really unusual things can end up paying off, even if it doesn't look like it. This is a game with enough variance that it's impossible to really pick it to death and create one perfect way to do it. Yeah. There is, I think, probably one could say there is such a thing as a perfect run of Azure Dreams, but it's, frankly, a run which has the least amount of running from the runner possible, pretty much. Because a perfect run of Azure Dreams would just be, you spawn in, you did a glitch entry. Oh, that is a lot of traps there in that little room. You spawn in the room with the elevator every single floor. That is the perfect run. That's in some ways a lot less fun than the imperfect run that the tower is usually going to give you.
Or even better than the elevator, you want the go-up traps, because then you don't have the animation.
Yeah. Go-up traps, the step away from your spawn. That would be the best.
And if you've ever watched the TAS run, which if anyone Googles on YouTube, they can find it, that's pretty much the principle behind it, although it wasn't perfect. There's a mix of go-up traps and elevators in the nearby rooms, and he just runs to them each floor. And that's actually done by kind of manipulating the RNG, because the RNG is re-rolled every frame, so theoretically if you wait the correct number of frames, you can get the floor that you want by waiting the right amount of time each time.
Right, but that is...
not something a human could do, definitely not.
Yeah, no, human beings should not do that. Human beings should instead develop a set of strategies for how to deal with the imperfect luck the tower will usually give you. It's a bit like poker, I suppose. Or at least what someone once told me about poker, and I remember forever after. You don't know a lot about how people play poker from good hands. What separates the truly great poker players from everyone else is how they deal with bad hands.
That's definitely true.
And so that is, I think, something worth keeping in observation, and how these runners deal with their problems is going to make or break runs. We see that Chai has created a little bit of distance on this merry chase, and that's not something that always happens, though. Sadly, his escape to blessed freedom is a little bit cut off. This room only has one other exit, and there's an alley in it, and that's very sad.
Septic, you can do that, but don't expect to get invited back to the next poker game.
Regardless. So, things worth noting, I think, particularly this time, is that they're probably going to be a little more pugnacious than they were at this point in their previous run, though Resonaire certainly played pretty bold at that point in terms of what he was willing to explore and what... Ooh, white sand. That is one of the nicer items you can find just around the tower. At this point, he doesn't have the inventory to really make that useful to its utmost, where you can give... Oh! Nano Imajuking on Chai's side. That is something we don't see every day. It kind of takes the right circumstances to pull off, but it's definitely a fun little bit of tech to see that Manoibas have a smaller aggro range and de-aggro a bit faster than other monsters, so you can lose them in the right sort of curve like that.
Yeah.
And since
even though it's been known for quite a while, it wasn't until I think Baldwin kind of articulated it well with a YouTube video that we actually kind of knew the exact right number of steps to do it correctly.
Yep, there are a couple of other monster AI manipulations that the community is currently trying to figure out but don't yet have that articulation, I think is a perfect way of putting it. Don't have an easy summary of how that works. That they can make it into a reliable strat. Because this game still has, even after all these years, all sorts of strange odds and ends and things that we didn't start really figuring out until we had enough people pooling resources and enough people and particularly programmer literally taking this game apart at the seams, shaking out its pockets and seeing what falls out. Ooh, a cure-all herb. That is a good thing to have besides curing any status ailment. It also can cure the secret curse status ailment the game never tells you about. It's the only thing that does that, and so it's very handy in case they find a shield, but it's cursed.
The thing is, they have like a full face animation, like a face profile for what he looks like when he's cursed, I think. But it's not, it's there in the game's data, but it's just never shown.
Interesting, that's weird. Did they originally intend it maybe for it to be a more normal status ailment with, like, it tells you about things? And then, who knows why they didn't. The motives behind the actions.
Paralyzed as well, but since you can never open the menu while you're paralyzed, you never see it.
Well, that's certainly a thing. Interesting that they spawn on the elevator, pretty much on floor 8 once again. That is what happened with Resonaire. Last time that happened, Resonaire went and did his exploring after this point. I wonder if he will do the same thing this time. That is where he found that clown. That is where things ultimately started really developing for him, I think. Did he find it on 8, or did he find it on a later floor? Where he did the exact same thing. Because he did do that occasionally. He might have found it on floor 14, because we got very hyped that maybe that was a Garuda egg.
Possibly.
I think that is what happened. And certainly it was an egg within Garuda's striking range. On a floor where the elevator was right next to them, so Chai just went on up. That is... Ooh, that hurts. And failed on the pickup. That is scary, scary, scary.
Yes, yeah.
Going to use a bit of AI1 strat.
Oh, and U-boat goes back down again.
U-boat goes back down. That is not what you want to see. Because now there's more monsters coming, and how is he going to get to that elevator without... He's letting Cume do the U-boat dancing, and that keeps it at bay and underground enough.
Yeah, that's
for him to reach that That was beautifully done. Wait, what? Oh, there was a tiny monster then on czaj's side? Huh, we completely missed it in the U-boat dancing. That is a funny thing to see. You don't see monster dens very often, but there's something kind of funny in tiny ones where you can fight or just walk your way out of it.
I was going to say, you could switch the audio, but it looks like he's already on the elevator.
Yep, also, as far as I'm aware, last time I checked, we're already on czaj's audio, because Resonaire's isn't usable. We here are not getting any audio in the commentary of these streams, so we're just...
Yeah.
What you might hear. There is a distinct musical cue for Monster Den floors that starts playing once you enter it and doesn't stop until you leave the floor. Which is kind of funny when it's a small den full of monsters you can either walk past or defeat. Because you still get that super hype, super tense music. Like, oh no, you're in real trouble now, and most of the time you find a monster den, which, come to that, isn't itself most of the time. You are in real trouble. But not... what was that, czaj? Were you planning on using bread directly onto that bow troll, but missed it due to just not getting your angles right due to floor elevation? Because if so, that's a little weird. That's a little weird thing to have happened, and a bit unfortunate. It also could be a misclick through the menus if he was trying to control Kuhn's movement in a certain way. That steel shield is cursed. It's still better than what they have, and with a cure-all herb, he is all set to go as if that curse never happened. It's still a pretty good shield. Certainly better than what they had at this time. With no shield or with very little shield, this can be a very scary set of floors, even when it would normally be the time you stretch yourself out a little. If you were... Ooh, an egg! I would love... That could be something pretty interesting. At this floor, I think most of the worst options from early monsters are out of the way, though it could still be something like a volcano or a troll or something kind of boring like that. Griffins are a pretty solid backup Kuhn. They basically do the same thing, but with a little less HP. Oh, it is a bloom egg, that Resonaire truth. Thank you very much for catching that.
Yeah, bloom is the most common on this floor, it's about 20% chance.
And there is Kuhn's HP gone. So, there are better... You know, you ideally never want Kuhn to fully run out of HP, because... Also, bow trolls are sneaky buggers who shoot through doors, and it's completely unfair. And I want to express that fact.
A one-room floor with bowgun trolls. They can shoot from any distance, so it's just a... you better hope you're close to the elevator if that happens.
Yeah, that is kind of a nightmare scenario you have just described. One-room floors are scary enough just due to regular things because everything is aggroed on you. We saw one in the race last night. We'll see if we can... If we end up seeing one today and we can talk more about what a situation that is next time. czaj has just the tiniest sliver of a lead. Making it to 11 first, but it barely qualifies as such. And that's given the sort of running they put out earlier today, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Especially 24 minutes in, floor 11. That's a bit... That is one of those things where it can be really hard to say how you're doing. That is pretty normal, but at the same... And certainly we've seen floors where you don't where 11 is the best floor a lot later in the race. But there are also times where that's kind of behind. It's a matter of luck. And then he's just gotta hope that the tower is being cruel to Resonaire and kind to him when it's been about equal for the both of them, I think. Resonaire may be doing a little bit more fighting, meaning being forced into a few more fights. But other than that...
So, as one thing that Sam Knight really likes, I don't know if any other runners do this, but with Bloom you can fuse it with something to unlock its hidden spell, which is D something or other. But the key property of this spell is that it paralyzes with 100% chance. To pull this off, you kind of lose a lot of time, but if you really know what you're doing and you get all the inputs like quickly, it can work out in your favor. It means you can paralyze any monster and then switch to your other spell to finish him off.
Resonaire running into some bad luck. Kuhn is defeated while he is knocked out by the Streaming, and he is put into an immediate bad situation.
This is the first time we've seen Kuhn.
I think we might have seen Kuhn being taken out towards the end of Chai's run, but like after a point where that Resonaire immediately using the Wind Crystal, he doesn't want to go further without Kuhn. That is an interesting choice, because I think floor 11 you could make the argument of maybe keeping Kuhn around, of maybe going on ahead, but he is not going to take that risk. He has a Scarlet Wand and he wants to use it. But that does allow Czaj to maybe get a solid potential lead. And that could make the difference in this race. We see Czaj going to try and hatch that Bloom egg. I think maybe he's thinking that if it's something like, say, a clown, he might want to explore this particular floor 12 and look for the blue collar to fuse them, and if it isn't, he's going to go up the elevator. I think that's his thinking. I'm not sure what he will make of this particular Bloom. And whether he will say, I can go Water Kuhn, I doubt it though. He has Scarlet Wand, not Stream Wand. So he probably decide to go up the elevator. That is my guess. It's worth noting that Resonaire took a Pita Fruit instead of a Palumpa egg. I think in a multiple entry scenario, I'm going to maybe advocate for the Palumpa egg because it is more versatile. You can do a lot more with it.
Exactly. I think Pita does anything. Yeah, I mean, if you can feed it to your egg for 50 MP, then that immediately becomes strictly better than Pita, I guess.
Yep, that is a thing you can do. You can also throw it for a single attack that does a lot of damage and can save your bacon. You can also hatch it and go Water Kuhn if you have a good set of equipment. There's, a Diamond Shield on Chai's side. This is maybe the point at which the improved defense isn't going to be the greatest, but on the other hand, it's improved defense. That's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, Scarlet Wand, Diamond Shield, he has the potential to go fast, so, yeah.
Yeah, basically it comes down to whether you prefer the dodge chance of a Leather Shield or the defense of a Diamond Shield in terms of whether you want that and a Scarlet Wand or elementally appropriate one that you're choosing. Saying for like your Dream Gear scenario. But on the other hand, I think leather shields are a little bit more common than diamond ones. That is at least my experience. So like, it's not like it's not like later on when the improved defense is totally meaningless, he doesn't still have options. That mule, unfortunately, getting the AI to do a couple of attacks at him as he tries to pass it by instead of at that ice rock ball. That is the unfortunate thing about the ice rock ball. Machai making it up to floor 14. This is not quite out of Kraken country, which is the scarier country, but certainly getting close to its edges, where you can maybe start to get a bit of a break in the next couple of floors, before you never really get a break ever again. Where you go from arachnes to vipers to killers to everything, pretty much. Mix in a tyrant or two. That sort of thing. Also, ooh, a ton of fruit. That is one of the nicer potential outcomes, and it looks like Chai is going to try some AI-1 strats to face down this sword troll and hopefully recover enough health to make managing this next couple of floors a little bit easier. He doesn't know that he has been given a lot of breathing room all of a sudden through Resonaire's departure. Though it is, of course, breathing room that could reverse at any time. There is still a lot of race left. And if something happens to Chai, then Resonaire has the advantage in terms of pushing the floor count up from 15 or up from whatever happens. Also, Hextree, I think if you are talking, I cannot hear you. And if you aren't, then I will keep going. Okay, there you are. I'm just making sure since it had been a little while. And that is the disadvantage of, an egg on 16. All sorts of fun things that could be.
Yeah, Garuda is the most common on 16, along with Griffin and Kraken and Newell. Arachne has a chance.
And of those, and of course there's a chance. I think there might be a chance for Barong. Barong's egg distribution is a little bit weird, but certainly there is enough possible there that this could be a very exciting egg. I think the worst of these
Barong is 3% from 16 to 20.
Well, there you go. So very unlikely, but certainly fun. Though maybe not the thing he'd most want to see. I think he'd more want to see Arachne or Garuda. Arachne being pretty much a pure punch machine. Damage for days. Set it to AI1. Skip merrily along your way.
Some runners opt to keep Arachne as is. Some runners opt to fuse him into Qn and give Qn double attack.
Yeah, it is worth noting that Chai does not have that particular option because he saw that bloom and decided not to explore floor 12 more thoroughly. So fusing won't be a thing for him. But with the right monster in that egg, I think he might not need to, provided he gets the opportunity and feels safe enough to take the time to hatch it. And I'm not sure if he'll do that. It is... You can see him think about it and try and hope for maybe a truth glass to make that decision for him.
It's
or
a
maybe...
decision to make, because it's kind of like if your opponent, if you're pretty confident your opponent has the same egg, then it's a gambit. Like whoever goes for the egg has a chance of getting the Garuda and basically outclassing their opponent.
It's a tricky decision, and for all Chai knows, Resonaire has gotten the Seg. We know he hasn't. Oh, interesting. Using the Ice Rock Ball, probably because Chai does not want to go up while slow. That is a scary situation because you have no idea what's waiting for you. Ooh, egg on Resonaire's side. This is a different tower because the tower is different every time. Though if Chai is forced to leave the tower, now that's a pure ice rock wall.
Yeah, it's slow. It's taking a while to wear off.
And that's just a matter of luck. Status effects can last as long as 52 turns, as some sleep effects have done. U-boat will be pretty handy and is, I think, one of the better scenarios that Resonaire is hoping for. Now, if Chai is forced to leave the tower and re-enters, he will have the opportunity to find this same egg. But until he re-enters, they will be running on different towers. Well, that is certainly not bad to find. And another U-boat! That is pretty exciting. U-boats, it's a little expensive, but you can scout and get a full layout of the floor, and that's very nice.
Yeah, so he'll be wanting to look out for any foods, seeds, herbs, and fruits, because when Yuba runs out of MP, even if your herb only gives him, like, say, 1 MP, he can still use his scout ability and that'll bring him to 0 MP, but the scout works fine. So every food item equals 1 scout, basically.
Yeah, and that's very handy. Chai making it through Arachne's territory pretty much unscathed and getting up into what we like to call Viper Town. Population, way too many. You wish it wasn't you. But on the other hand, this is a pretty exciting place for anyone to make because it is such a big hurdle. Getting through the Arachnes and getting to these guys and hopefully past them as well.
That's what it points out. If Resonaire has Leolam and feeds it to the U-boat, then every time he takes the U-boat out of the bag, uses a scout and puts him in the bag, I don't know how many turns U-boat will use, maybe 2, not sure. But basically
Leolam
will last him at least maybe 7 to 14 scouts.
Ooh, a water crystal on Chai's side. That's pretty nice. That is a full heal HP and MP for Kuhn, not for Ko. Not the slightest bit for Ko. Please remember that. Otherwise, you will be very sad. And of course, the tooltip does not explain this to you at all. And you are left to figure that out by becoming very sad. Such is the nature of the monster. Using some AI1 and particularly that Wind Seed to make that Viper into a much more manageable and defeatable monster. I think that was a pause for his damage calculations to make sure that's defeatable, because Vipers are scary. Resonaire basically has an inventory full of star glasses, metaphorically speaking, and so I think it would not be shocking. Oh, 2 elevators in the same room. Huh, that is a funny thing.
Yeah, so in the game you can actually get up to 4 elevators on 1 floor. And I'll just look up the probability now. Here it is. 0.00038% chance of 4 elevators being on the floor.
What does that translate to in terms of odds? Well, okay, 1 in a ridiculously small number, basically.
Yeah, 1 in a million? No, 1 in about a million, I think.
Well, there you have it. Also, oof, Chai getting beaten up by these wee dogs. Going to have to take this couple of steps to the elevator with the utmost of care and caution. And that is a tricky situation. But looks like with the help of a binding ball charge that is handled and he's able to go on up, probably with not as much HP as he thinks. This could get over in a single hit if things went bad. Ooh, an egg. There has been a lot of eggs in this seed, and it's not clear yet how blessed or cursed the egg luck here really is. That U-boat is certainly a good monster.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, like, for example, I've seen Wugger using the U-boat very effectively, so it might not have been something that Resonaire practiced much, because it's not something that comes up often. But if you use the U-boat effectively, it's very possible that Resonaire could pull ahead as long as he continues to use it throughout the tower. It's just a question of whether he really is able to use the U-boat effectively.
Right, because at the end of the day, the disadvantage of a U-boat compared to something like Garuda is you still have to make it to that elevator you found. And that can be a hard thing and requires some skill to back it up. On the other hand, it's still a pretty big help, and with the right luck, maybe he could come back in this. There is still a good bit of time. On the other hand, as Genefreak points out in chat, the advantage of the U-boat over the Garuda is that you pretty much never lose the U-boat. It's very rare. But the Garuda can get taken out before you have the opportunity to get away. The Garuda can be separated from you. All sorts of bad things can happen to that Garuda.
I personally never had much luck with Garudas.
Yeah. Chai running into a bit of trouble getting his Kyun and his new friend, the Viper, over that Holy Scrolls protection until it fades away. Ooh, this is a scary set of circumstances. Luckily, this is just a unicorn, and that's not the scariest available monster. It's one that Kyun can handle pretty well by itself. But if that had been a Viper that wasn't a friendly one, and I assume that Viper there was not a friendly one, that could have gone south very quickly.
So Resonaire just demonstrated a very smart tactic there, which is to direct your familiar to move away from you so that the enemies follow him instead of you as you're making it to the elevator. Very good tactic to use in the right situations.
It is something of a strat which in the long term might not work, because you could lose Kyun, there could be a lucky crit, or it could just not quite work out. But on the other hand, Resonaire doing damage calcs, that egg bomb did not do the trick. He is still in a risky position. It is still not a good position to be in. This would be, I think, a good time for the Tumna Fruit and to do some invulnerability strats using Kyun by picking him up, turning him into a frog, and then putting him quietly in your bag, you become invincible. It's pretty handy.
I've only seen that done once in the tournament, and that was when Baldwin first revealed that trick.
I didn't in my last race, but I think it's still a rare trick, in part because it takes a little bit of presence of mind to recognize when that is a situation, and certainly Chai was able to get out of that danger. That's pretty handy. That binding ball did last long enough. Chai using about the last star glass he has, so his scouting is going to possibly take a bit more time through the next couple of floors. And maybe that will give Resonaire the chance he needs to catch up. Or maybe Chai will have fantastic elevator luck, or who really knows what is possible. Azure Dreams is a pretty unpredictable game on a floor-by-floor basis.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to entirely assess where the runners are, or in terms of how good their position is going forward. Certainly, Chai has a sizable enough lead that he could very possibly not lose it.
Yeah, the gap isn't getting closed that much, so yeah, unless Chai goes down in the next few floors, it's a very strong chance that Chai will win.
In which case, we will get the excitement of a third match to determine who the winner of it is, and we will get to see more Azure Dreams, which is always the thing you most want to see. Well, besides maybe a double 40 clear, that would be like another double 40 clear, that would be the thing you most want to see. But other than that, more Azure Dreams. I think that is the end of that Leolam fruit, which lasted a pretty good while, if that's the case. Oh, that's going to take a while if that zoo keeps trying to change the AI of the stationary wall of ice.
Yeah, there's one thing you can do, which is you can zoom the camera right in, and then basically those attacks go off the screen quicker. But camera controls are fiddly, so you have to kind of know which buttons to press to get the zoom level right again.
Yeah, and getting the zoom level right is surprisingly tricky. I can never manage to do it the number of times I accidentally zoom in and then never zoom back out.
It's also very effective for the U-boat, because the U-boat, you see him when you use Scout, you see him wander off, but once he's off screen, then he zips around really quickly. So if you zoom in, you speed it up, and then have to zoom out again.
Yeah, that is, I think, probably not worth the time you save, but you never know. It could be.
I think if you've mastered the inputs, I think it does save, because I've seen Wugger do very well with the U-boat, and presumably he's practiced enough to decide that it is effective.
A reasonable thing. Resonaire getting through these couple of floors very quickly. I'm not really sure what his inventory is like at this point. Oh, it's got like a load of spell balls. He has enough spell balls to... Oh, that's bad. That's not what you want. And that binding also did not last as long as Resonaire might have really liked it to. Particularly with Kuhn also paralyzed. Luckily, you can pick up your own monsters, and that's pretty much always successful, unlike enemy monsters, so if Kuhn is under some sort of problem, carry him around. I know Chai just loves carrying him around for the assurance of knowing where Kuhn is going to be at all times in his hand, And also for times like this, where he gets to move at double speed for a little bit.
One time you don't want that to be the case is when you hit a paralyzed trap, because then Kuhn can't defend you, he stays in your hand while you're paralyzed.
Yeah, that is a rough one. And of course, it does close off some of your options in terms of what you are capable of, how you are capable of responding. You can't really use items while you're holding Kuhn. And so you have to make the decision of whether to fight or flee or what have you that much quicker.
Yeah.
Chai's on 27 now. That is absolutely wild. These have been some consistently strong runs here. But with 10 minutes on the clock, Resonaire will have a really hard time getting to floor 28. Oh, an Arachne egg! That's gotta sting. On the other hand, I think Czaj probably feels at this point in time that he has made good time, and maybe that will be enough that he doesn't have to mourn the loss of that egg. Egg doesn't have to mourn the hope of what its sort of timing could have been, but that's still one of the eggs you really want to see in a tower run, because Arachnes are so good at hurting things.
Yeah. Yeah, probably the second favored egg after Garuda.
Yeah. Ooh, a cursed earth shield. That is not what you want. That is not what you want at all. Because while the Earth Shield is good against Resonaire's next swath of enemies, on the other hand, if you were to make it to a point where you start seeing more fire monsters, he is in a lot of trouble. Additionally, damage-dealing traps like Slam and Bomb are fire elemental, and so those can become very scary.
Yeah. It's just too much reliability.
It looks like Czaj thinks one of those could be a Manaweeva. It's certainly possible. But it looks like they're not. Though admittedly, it's a little hard to tell with the quality of his map. Whether that's 2 side-by-side blue dots or 1 blue dot. Oof. Oof. Resonaire is very low on HP. His Kuhn is probably very low on HP. That is scary. What? That is not a thing I have ever seen happen. What just happened on Czaj's side where the unicorn vanished?
That was an egg bomb. The unicorn decided to use blind.
It used low blind. Okay, thank you. I was momentarily a little bit confused about what was going on.
Yeah, it's not something you see often. I mean, when you egg bomb, what you definitely don't want is a clown to use low down. But
a block and an Arachne egg. Those two put together have perfect offenses, perfect defenses. That is just a killing machine. That would have probably taken way too long for a race setting. You probably just want to grab the Arachne and call it a day, but certainly that is a fun setup. And one can see a decent bit in New Game Plus, though I think Haikun-based strategies have become more common because Haikun kills everything. Just a one-hit KO on the entire area of effect, which is pretty great for mixture magic, is very inheritable, etc., etc., and so forth.
The original fear was that Haikun expends a lot of MP to do his attack, but as Cluter and then Baldwin now, who has the record, have pointed out, you can manage it quite well. Baldwin's record he brings in, he fuses it with the Cyclone, I think. And also brings in a couple of water as well.
That is a very reasonable set of decisions. Chai using a Holy Scroll on that Naples because otherwise there just isn't a whole lot of way he can get around things. But of course, oof, that's bad. That is like half his health in a single blow. That's a scary thing to see. And that Naples, while it is an excellent, well, it's a fun monster, isn't the most reliable monster in the world to have as even a temporary ally because it can just fall asleep. They are sleepy boys.
Yeah, so what I said about fusing with Cyclone was taking back, because actually there is a way to fuse things and keep Haikyuu in the winner, but it's a bit complicated. But yeah, Baldwin just uses the Cyclone with the U-boat so that he can do lots of skeletons, along with the
That is that sounds like that is a great strategy and a lot of fun ones. New Game Plus is, I think, one of the more fun categories to watch. I mean, it's all fun, but like, and we have a lot of different categories. There's any percent, which is basically just like this. And by the way, I want to point out that Resonaire is getting very close to making up this gap.
Oh yeah, he has, isn't he? Yeah.
He has only a couple, 6 floors to go at this moment anyway. And at the moment is having to take things a bit slowly and cautiously due to a confused Kyun, low HP, all of the things you kind of don't want to have to deal with at the same time. Also, yeah, while using a light shield on an enemy causes them to be fire attack, and so Kyun gets neutral damage. On the other hand, Ko currently has wind-based defenses, and therefore not the best against fire. Now that I think about it, as far as names go, wind magic having an earth shield is a little bit weird. Luckily, he does apparently have a Decur Scroll, and so we see that Diamond Shield come back out, and it's a very reliable thing, and certainly will make any fire monsters he has to deal with much, much safer. But he is getting bullied now. Naples behind him.
So that the Kraken's electricity doesn't affect you if you have an Earth Shield. So one very small advantage of the Earth Shield.
Oh, that's neat. Also, I think I got confused about which side had which first Earth Shield. Because it's Resonaire that has that, of course it is. And not a very great situation, though that Finding Ball did last long enough that he probably feels pretty good about its usage. Chai using this bloom for a little bit of just spare things for his defense, but I think he is thinking this might be the end of the line for him. Though with 57 minutes on the clock and just a couple of minutes left, he must be feeling pretty good. He doesn't know that Resonaire is just a little bit behind. And the question is, can he make it through about 5 floors in 2 minutes? That's a tall order, even if U-Boat's able to tell him exactly where everything is, and since he didn't use it on this floor, I think he must be concerned about its MP at this point. It might even be out.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, the animation for U-Boat would be too slow. I think you would just hope for the elevator being in the next room every time.
Yeah, and that's unlikely to happen, so we are probably going to see in Game 3, that was a very mean floor on Chai's side. He gave it a good hard fight, but eventually it was out. He did see that swing out on the elevator, and so it will come down to what can Resonaire do in these last couple of minutes. This is going to be a very close race, but he does have to get to floor 29 in order to beat czaj's floor 28. So it's gonna be around 3, and that will be really exciting to see. And we will see a full buffet of Azure Dreams today. Like, I'm sure at this point, even that snowman being on his side must feel a little bit of a sting. Like, oh, if only he wasn't taking so long to fight that zoo. Alas, he is. And this appears to be the end for him. Pretty much regardless. Oh, 2 Arachnes from different towers. This game really wanted them to use an Arachne. Neither runner was having that sort of time, though.
Yeah, and that's it.
Okay. And so we will alert the runners, and we will begin to set up for round 3. I will be right back while they get set up.
So yeah, it'll take a few minutes. And I guess we're on to the tiebreaker. Often in these matches, even if one person has won both games, often the players will opt to have a third match for fun. Welcome, Horza, if you've just arrived. I don't know if you were hosting earlier, I don't think so. Yeah, so for those that didn't catch the beginning of this particular run, Resonaire actually wind crystalled out on floor 11, whilst czaj was just going straight. So Resonaire managed to catch up very quickly, and it was amazingly close considering that he re-entried from floor 11. Partly thanks to the U-boat, which I think he managed to use as often as he could manage. Okay. And they're just loading seed 3 now. So, Resonaire seed is good.
And we're back. Or I am, at least.
Yes. So yeah, Resonaire seed is good, just waiting on czaj.
Alrighty. I mean, we will be able to get started for this third match very shortly, and that's really hyped. What are you hoping to see this time? We've seen certainly a lot of things. We missed the monster den, but chat saw it, so that's good. We've seen a double clear. We've seen.
I think we're due for a Garuda race.
That would be fun. That would be fun. And it would be really fun to see who can better utilize that particular monster, though Chai has thus far not really been very interested in hatching eggs he finds. I wouldn't be surprised, even if they both found something they like, he didn't elect to hatch it. At least not without knowing what it is. Unless he just happens to feel confident going into this third round.
Chai's,
Or something happens to Q.
Okay, I think Chai is resetting because he skipped too fast through the seed screen.
He does do that. That is the same thing that happened at the start of this last match. But then again, maybe that's lucky for him. It worked last time. And that is the foundational form of superstition, folks. Alright, both seeds are good, which means that we will be able to get them into position, coning, all of that good stuff. The de-randomizing randomizer does let us skip through Ko's entire life story, which otherwise the game won't play you as its opening cutscenes. And since we are in the interest of going fast, for races we have the randomizer set to skip that part. And for any percent runs, we actually allow the player to start as these races start first movement outside of your house. So you can just set up a save file. Before you go to the tower in the first time. Start up the game, load that save file, leave the house, and then start your timer. And that is, I think, one of the anti-frustration features sort of built into how this game is run and timed. Oh, looks like Chai is naming himself Timon. I imagine that means that Kyun will be Pumbaa. Some of the name choices are pretty funny. That people come up with are pretty funny. I know some people have, like, their personal pet names for what they like to think of Kyun as. I know Shawnee likes Trash, for example. Yep. And I like to do a roundabout Japanese pun, since I tend to pronounce it Kyun, and Q is 9 in Japanese, therefore 9N Kyun. A perfect logic that makes no sense to... Yep. A perfect logic that makes...
I've seen you use that name, yeah. And I've seen you use Notco as well, which I also didn't understand until Shawnee explained it to me. So it's for the intro scene, if I'm correct.
Correct.
What should we name this? What should we name our baby? How about Co? No, I don't think that's the right name. How about not Co?
Right, that is exactly the line of logic there. So, as we set up for this third race, I think it's probably worth, in case people joined in partway through, to do once again a little bit of a setup. This is the third of a best 2 out of 3 race in the semi-finals of the Azure Dreams Stars tournament. We will be judging these runners basically based on who gets to the highest floor the fastest. And they will go on to the finals, whichever one of these two does that. They have as many entries as they need to, but only within the hour. If they were to make it to the same highest floor, whoever gets to that floor first is the winner. And that should about cover it, as I think we are probably ready for the full countdown if we haven't already given it. We have seen some really impressive running this race, and this third round could be anything. It could be a series of pool towers full of disasters. This could be a blessed seed where we see the runners go extremely high We don't know, which is of course always the fun part about Azure Dream. Since it is a roguelike, most of the randomizing work is already done to have the sort of who knows what will happen excitement of a randomizer race. But since we have a de-randomizer, so we can have them running the same random tower no one has ever seen before. Excuse me for a moment as they get into the tutorial section, and Kyun is in fact being on Chai's side, going for a series of great duos, I assume. There we go. This intro tutorial floor is one that, in tournaments for more practice runners as these tournaments have evolved, I say usually, but there really isn't a usually yet. And in terms of exactly what these tournament setups are, this is the 4th tournament this community has run over the past 1.5 years, and each one has been subtly different. The first one, of course, had no randomizer whatsoever, and I think at least part of the second one didn't, which was a doubles tournament, if I recall correctly.
Yes, I think that was the one where I first discovered this community.
Yeah, and so this community does most of its growing through tournaments, since it is for a cult classic game that people don't really think of as a game people speedrun, or a game other people are aware of its existence. Since I think it says something kind of about this game that a lot of people who first come into it, having played the game as a kid and joining up with it now, we still get people asking about or believing in like the sort of schoolyard rumors that were floated around on forums right at the turn of the century when this game was new. There hasn't ever been enough attention to really firmly, collectively dispel those. In the way that other games of that timing have had their schoolyard rumors debunked or confirmed, depending on exactly what rumor you're thinking of. And so, like, anytime you see this game getting love, it's really exciting. I think it is almost a sort of best-kept secret. Except, it's not a secret. Play Azure Dreams is really good, God. If you aren't already, and be sure to check out our Discord if you want to get into this game some more. We are able to pretty much get you set up with whatever you might need to learn how to run this game. Hextree has got disconnected. That explains. Silence. There you are. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know. Discord booted me temporarily.
These things happen. Connections can be a little bit shaky sometimes. Means the internet is an unpredictable thing. So we see both of them getting to the actual new part of the tower as opposed to the tutorial level, because before I got on that very lengthy tangent, I was saying that basically, as the de-randomizing randomizer and as the tournaments have evolved, for the third one, we did like a fast tutorial floor skip. But for this one, we wanted to get the runners used to the sort of things that would happen in any percent, where obviously there isn't one unless you want to do glitched entry, which isn't ideal for a new runner.
Yeah, things like the tutorial, although they're boring and stuff, it's at the end of the day something you need to have up your sleeve. You need to know how to do the tutorial quickly to save an extra few seconds. So we figured, might as well make the runners go through it, because then whatever time they get in this race,
accurately reflects their actual PB for any percent, even if it's not eligible for the leaderboards.
Yep. And the way, of course, we check for whether or not something has been done using the de-randomizer, and thus whether it's eligible for the leaderboards, is this the de-randomizing randomizer changes Ko's type, it's his species, I guess, from tamer to runner. This has the side effect of changing Garuda's command from abduct spelled with an A to abduct spelled with a U.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Little bugs, but so far there are not many that we know of that actually affect the gameplay. There were a couple of issues with crashes, but they're not a big deal.
Yeah, Azure Dreams has a couple of weird crashes and glitches all by itself, so one or two more isn't really all that dramatically game-changing. There are rooms for perfectly vanilla soft locks. Oh yeah, that is very good. That will do a little bit of counterattack damage, which isn't too terribly significant, but that sped up like that. That was sort of a funny little dance that I think could have gone very wrong to Resonaire.
Ballroom dancing.
Without a U-boat for a partner, what is the world coming to? When young monster tamers are left alone on the dance floor. Monsters these days have no chivalry, I tell you what. Though I suppose, for the tamer and for the runners, it's kind of a relief that no one came to join Resonaire's stance. And there's that live shield. We'll see how Chai approaches that. We know that that's a pretty good shield that he would benefit from committing to, but we've seen that he can be pretty cautious about what equipment he keeps on him. Yeah. And that's understandably so. Chai favors a safety that makes him a very reliable runner. Maybe more than anything else.
Yep.
So, their inventories this time around are, I think, a little bit sparse coming out of these first 5 floors. They haven't found nothing. They found a good shield, which was sort of the when will they find a shield of the last round in its first tower. But at the same time, they could certainly have more resources at their disposal.
Yeah, I normally don't feel particularly confident until I have a wand in my hand. And we have a wand on the Resonaire side.
Yep. Offenses are a little bit... not cursed this time, that's good. A little bit more important than defenses, because after a while, no matter what defensive options you have, unless you have, like, a diamond shield you've trained like absolute mad, your defenses probably don't matter. Eventually something will two-shot you no matter what. But good offenses can make the difference between this fight is completely unmanageable and this fight is easy. Out-damaging your opponents, killing them before they can kill you, is your best defense, really. Besides, having good movement and using your inventory to avoid fights altogether.
Yep, that's definitely the way speedrunners go. I've seen casual runners play, and they'll probably take a bit more time to build up their shields, put lots of blue sands on them over the course of several trips to the tower, and only then would you think about like defense. Otherwise, it's pure flight or kill.
Yep. And that is, of course, you know, the casual way is the way the game is intended to be run. We are seeing some wild things, and any floor after floor 6 is a pretty solid run. That is a run the game does not intend you to be doing. Ooh, and there is, that fire sword is cursed. Interesting that that is what czaj wants to commit to first. Before the wand, we do know that it's because it's a fire sword. Oh, Scarlet Wand, that is nice. And no curse. This has been some pretty nice, good gear. Now the runners have to be a little nervous about whether or not they can keep it. If something were to happen to them, the advantage of this gear would go out the window, and that's maybe a thing to consider. But Resonaire, you probably don't need that many decurse scrolls. Hasn't really been super interested in giving them cursed items this time around. Or at least not cursed items they would pick over other ones, except for czaj's fire sword. It's a little funny to me how many decurse scrolls there have been. That is like the 3rd or 4th one? No, just 3rd. Just 3rd.
Yeah, I think it's not too unusual though. I've definitely seen decurse scrolls pile up a lot in my runs.
Yeah, I think they are probably the most common scroll, I want to say. Unless, of course, you don't want one.
Yeah.
Unless you want one, then you never find them. Such is the way of the world.
In a couple of cases, the game is somewhat programmed that way. I think the Peter Fruits and the wing crystals especially are especially programmed so that if you're holding fewer than 2 wing crystals, then it dramatically increases the chance of them spawning.
Which is nice, because the game doesn't otherwise give you one for sure at any point, except maybe floor 40, on your second trip onward. I think that usually has a wind crystal. Gosh, who you fight on your second entry and beyond, sometimes drops one. But the game doesn't give you one as part of your starter kit. I think the game expects you to go home dead the first time.
Yeah, it's a very interesting start of the game. I'm sure most runners have gone home dead if they hadn't looked up on walkthroughs and stuff and had no idea what a wing crystal is. I mean, it's very hard to play this game without a walkthrough.
That is true. It is so full of little corners. It doesn't really... While it gives you that tutorial, it doesn't exactly announce any of the things you really want to know.
Yeah.
While it'll tell you, you can pick up and throw things. It doesn't say, by the way, the stuff you throw at an enemy has an effect on the enemy as if it used it itself. And so, like, all the things you don't want to use on you are good on the enemy. Pretty much. It's that line of thinking.
Even outside the tower, the girlfriend and building quests, a lot of them are just not very intuitive. You wouldn't think what you're supposed to do to progress the stories. I'd be impressed if anyone managed to complete all the buildings and girlfriends without any guidance whatsoever.
Yeah, that I think would be a little bit tricky. While there are certain signposts, it's certainly not as opaque as the tower. There are still the occasional tricks, and a lot of times when you're sort of going, well, I guess I'm just going to wait and see what happens. I think Vivian's quest is probably the hardest in terms of what to do, or even how to unlock her.
Yes.
Because I think you sort of arrive at her a little bit sideways. And a couple of her different events.
I mean, there's no knowing that the blue cape is related to Vivian appearing. before you've done that. Yeah.
It's a tricky thing. On the other hand, for most things, you either just need to come back and go back. You either need to go in and out of the tower, basically, to advance something. Even if it's incremental.
Probably the most awkward bit is the healing herb, because despite the fact that the doctor tells you the healing herb is on 428, it doesn't actually spawn on 28 until Cheryl has said the precise line of dialogue which has the word happiest in it. And that was something I think Shawnee kind of painstakingly investigated until he discovered that. The flag is only set once a certain dialogue is set by Cheryl. So,
so it's not set for the doctor telling you, which is unfortunate and probably has killed, it sounds like, at least one bookless run.
Yes, I think before Shawnee discovered that several bookless runs might have been lost to that.
Very unfortunate. So, that is quite the situation Resonaire has. He has a bit of an early lead in here, but that spawn is not a kind spawn. It's not going to be a kind spawn to Chai either. Luckily, he does have that Tumna fruit and uses it. While it's maybe not to the maximum effectiveness of a Tumna fruit, it's certainly nothing to sneeze at. Even the worst thing you can do once you know to chuck it at an enemy is still pretty good. Please note, however, that the worst thing you can do is use it on yourself. That is the worst thing to do, and the Tumna fruit is one of those items that is sort of... why does this exist? It seems to only make me suffer when you're playing casually and you don't quite realize the power of throwing things at stuff.
Many people will go through an entire casual game without. I've definitely seen several live streams on Twitch that never knew about throw, and I introduced it to them mid-game, and it blew their minds.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I played the entire game without thinking about the possibility of throwing several times, frankly. Throwing is a powerful tool, though, particularly if you're in a mad sprint mode. Or you can even pick up and throw monsters. You can pick up and throw monsters at other monsters. And they will do some damage and a bit of a boomerang effect where the monster might decide, oh, I've encountered something that will keep me from going forward in this one wide hallway. I guess I should turn around.
Yeah, definitely. That's a strat I haven't seen these two runners do much, but that's definitely one of the advanced strats. It requires knowledge of how the AI works in the corridors.
Right, it also requires luck in the form of being able to get the right setup and get the pickup on a monster. Though if it's asleep, you can always get the pickup. Unless you can't lift it. It also requires monsters you can lift.
Yeah, you have to know which ones, and that you learn that from experience. And you could definitely do it with the Palumpas, which is why we often call it the Palumparang, because you can pick up the dark Palumpas later on in the game and use them to reroute monsters.
Yeah, the reemergence of Palumpas is kind of funny because for the most part they aren't that much more intimidating than when you encounter them. They're not more intimidating at all, except that some of them can collar jack you and steal your monster from you. But other than that,
they don't attack at all. They just stare at you.
Right.
And collar jack, yeah, that is true.
The lead here is very small. Resonaire and Chai are very close together, and there hasn't been a whole lot of divergences in terms of equipment, except that Chai is still carrying around that fire sword and using it. I don't know if he picked up that Scarlet Wand But if he does, I think it's interesting that even though he's found so many cursed scrolls, he did not pick up that Scarlet Wand. That is a shame. And that does give Resonaire something of an edge, though it could also slow him down because it makes more fights manageable.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that's just a little hard to say exactly how it will play out. I think it will make him probably more reliable, even if it doesn't make him faster, but since he does have this little bit of a lead, that's reliable might be better for him. And than necessarily fast in these particular circumstances.
Yeah, it's definitely ironic sometimes that what is technically better for you can actually lead you to lose a race. One example being losing Kuhn, technically bad, but often it causes players to act more like risky strategies, play more erratically, which works in their favor if they have managed to get the good RNG, and they managed to get through the tower faster.
Resonaire does have the blue collar because that was right in the elevator room, but it's very possible he won't use fusion onto Kuhn because he does have that Scarlet Wand. It makes switching to Water Kuhn a little bit less appealing, and that's certainly something Resonaire has not thus far done, though he normally doesn't get the blue collar on the previous couple of races. So it'll be tricky to see what happens and what strategies he makes based on what he has, and that is always the thing about Azure Dreams, is it is about adapting to whatever nonsense the game tells you about today, pretty much.
So of all the speedrunning games I'm familiar with, I think Azure Dreams, for me, is the one that's the most about being adaptable. At least the any % category. I think some of the longer categories are more roots focused, like Bookless, which is actually the one I'm more interested in most of the time, where it's more about choosing your route in the long term. But any % is very adaptable.
Right. Bookless, while in some ways it still has to deal with the randomness of the tower, it's sort of long-term, repeated trips focused does mean that it sort of evens out a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
Across several runs, you might have good luck sometimes, bad luck other times. But if you have that in sort of equal measure, it kind of all works out well enough. And then of course there is the point of Bookless, where that you're just sort of going in and out the tower kind of mechanically to pass time.
Yeah, because you're building up in stages, the first time you don't really go plus 410 because you're just getting money. Then you make the healing perk climb, and then you make the final climb. So because you're doing it in the stages, usually your XP on Q is good enough that you can manage each of those trips without too much trouble.
Yeah, that's a little bit more seeing of what Azure Dreams has to offer as a full experience. It is the quicker... Oh, that's not right. That's bad. Luckily, he does have that star glass. He can figure out what to do. He needs to set Kuhn to AI1 so it doesn't wander off. And from there, he can try and make it to the elevator or make it back to Kuhn, since he knows where that is. And just hope that everything goes okay.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't seen more of these warp trap situations in these races.
You know, you're right. This has been a warp trap at relative light period. Oh, that is an egg. That is an egg. That is an egg which could be many things.
450, so that would be most likely Clown or U-boat would be the best two options.
Both of which
Garuda
we have
is
seen
9%.
Resonaire do a lot of good with. and this time he does have the blue collar. We'll see if him taking this time pays off or not.
Yeah, I mean, if you add up the percentages, the chance of it being Clown, U-Boat, or Garuda would be 40%. So I'd say the time loss of hatching is probably worth it for getting one of those three.
That is an interesting place to try and hatch this egg.
I guess it's alright, yeah, because any monster that comes into the room won't have vision on him.
Yeah, that is true. Monster vision doesn't work, well, especially well, but doesn't work in a very intuitive way. If you're in a room that can see you, if not, then you have to be within like 3 squares less. If you're dealing with the Manawiba. Note that is triggered based on Co more so than Q. And even though Q is a valid target, it's just not the same sort of aggro. Oh, Volcano! That's sad. That's sad.
Yeah. Volcano's not even really good at melee attacking. I guess he has the rock pooping, which I don't think we've really tried it that much, so maybe rock pooping is a good strategy. I don't know how much MP it uses.
It strikes me as something that could be useful occasionally, but its usability is a little bit low, and I'm not sure if the time it takes to execute would really save that much time. I doubt we'll see it here, is the conclusion to draw here. Volcanoes don't have an unlocked spell to begin with.
Yeah.
Which makes them not really a solid replacement for Kuhn, the way we might see if it were a Griffin or something, and something happened to Kuhn.
Yeah, Griffin's Rise is the most powerful of the fire spells.
Would not be surprised. Because it amounts to the same flame sword, though, so I'm not really sure how that impacts things. But it certainly is worth noting.
Yeah, the mixed magic, it might be equal in terms of mixed magic. I've never really looked into that.
It is worth... We know that Chai did not pick up the blue collar, so I don't think we'll see him get too tempted by eggs. Unless there happens to be one in like a really good position. Admittedly, like that egg that we know is coming on floor 15. But I'm not sure he will feel the security of doing that. I think that is a risky play.
Maybe.
More decurse scrolls. I'm not sure what... Well, okay. The game doesn't expect anything out of them. I just feel it's kind of funny. Particularly because this hasn't been a super curse-filled run. Also, this, I think, is a situation in where a little bit of manipulation will certainly save the day. It's unfortunate that Kuhn gets that attack in from the low ground, which means Kuhn is taking more damage and dealing less. And that's a very sizable difference. That is not dissimilar to having advantage in the magic, in the elemental triangle. Which is one of the more formidable damage increases this game has in stock for it. And particularly has in stock available for an any percent run. That is a room with some unpleasant geometries. I would get antsy about a room with like such a big drop, but the game doesn't really let you see that very clearly.
Yeah. One of the plus sides is that if you have like 2 spaces of difference between you and the monster, it kind of screws up their pathfinding.
and sometimes they go on a weird route around the room to find you.
Yeah, interesting that he's picking up that mirror shield. That is, I think, in this context, a very niche shield. It's not useless.
Yeah, he's already past scary spells. But yeah.
But it's also maybe not the ideal here.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't go for it. I mean, from now on, what spells are particularly scary now?
Well, there's Rise, is it, on the dragons?
Yeah, but he'll soon be free of Rise.
Low blind.
Yeah, I guess.
Low bind. But on the whole, I think the chance isn't so high that I necessarily think, yeah, that's definitely going to come in clutch. Breath on dragons, thank you.
Yeah, Breath on Dragons is one. Yeah, I guess if he thinks those are run enders and he thinks he can't dodge them forever, then yeah, maybe it pays off.
But it's kind of a maybe.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't go
sense,
for it. I would prefer the more defense.
Yeah, the edge that a mirror shield has over this live shield is one of those things that's more apparent through the passage of time. As you make multiple runs, as you enter and re-enter, and as you build up that shield, which can keep its increases, that's probably its high point here, where its defenses aren't all that great. But we do have a Barong. And we do have Resonaire going through the Barong lottery without a lot of luck, and that is a time that czaj can use to his advantage. Oh, that is a leather shield +2. That's pretty nice.
I like the Earth Shields. He's decided to keep that one.
Interesting.
I guess
Unfortunately,
yeah, if it comes from a Barong, it can't be cursed. So he
that's
can
good
switch
to know.
back and forth between the shields, like micromanages shields when facing elemental monsters. I guess that is a smart play. It's not something I ever do because I'm too lazy to manage the shields, but yeah.
Oh, a slow seed. That is an interesting one. It's one of those things you pretty much don't see without a Barong. But it can
I think
come
it doesn't even spawn, yeah. I think it's only from the Barong.
And that is one of those items intended for the second tower, where the identity of every item you find is concealed, and you have to identify and name them yourself, pretty much. Yeah. And so, like there, a slow seed is dangerous. It's a thing that can cause you some trouble, but here, you can chuck it at an enemy. And that has all the power of chucking out enemies. czaj also hatching that egg, and also going to be disappointed. But you can see the sort of difference that Scarlet Wand makes, where those pickets go down in a single hit, when otherwise they probably wouldn't.
Yeah, when I get to this floor, normally it takes me 2 hits to kill pickets, so 1 hit is a huge improvement.
Yeah, in terms of, well, are they going to take my item? Well, are they going to beat? Admittedly, pickets are not really beating up items, but it can cause you to get bogged down in a situation where maybe other enemies find you. In the meanwhile, however, czaj has managed to catch up pretty close to Resonaire, and so he is going to have to keep on trucking in order to get the sort of distance he needs to maintain this lead. And that's going to be a little bit of a challenge, though. Admittedly, he has the elevator here. Oh, Stream Wand! If you wanted to do... I don't think does he have the material to do Water Cube?
Didn't see it.
I mean, well, we will see. He might hold on to it for later. He might enjoy switching it, because it looks like actually he switched off the Scarlet Wand to deal with those pickets, which is interesting. Wanting to avoid that the penalty for being on the losing end of the triangle, which is certainly bigger than the bonus. I don't know how that factors in when you add in the same type of attack bonus, though. I would be curious about how that adds up. I'm sure Chai's calculator could probably tell us. That said, Stream Wand is certainly a good wand to have around. And he might be at the point where if he finds a CC, if he still has his Palumpa, maybe that's worth doing. On the other hand, the time it takes to hatch that Palumpa.
Well, the initial Palumpa starts at something like 85%.
That is true. That does make it especially useful for fusion strats. Also, Nanoeva is clearly on Chai's side. We'll see. Oh, there's a go-up trap. He does not get the chance to try and hunt the tower once this gap closes. Tower wants it absolutely shut. But we'll see if that happens, and we'll see if that plays out. Going for the Earth Shield to try and take less damage from the Arachne, that is a good damage increase for sure. Or good damage decrease for sure.
Yeah, that's very good. That's probably something I should consider doing.
Yeah, the tricky part is, what if it's cursed?
Oh, well, he got that from the Baron, so,
yeah. I just sort of meant more in general. In terms
usually
of...
it won't be an easy situation.
Yeah, in terms of, is this replicatable? Which is always the question when you see a neat strategy. Is this something that I can get the stars to align to use? Does this open me up to a risk that I don't want to take? Is Resonaire choosing to continue exploring? I think I saw the elevator on his side, but maybe I didn't. It's unusual. This is an unusual place to try and exploring, and 37 minutes into the tiebreaker race is a really scary time to continue exploring. A little bit of perspective issue. This is why you always want to use your camera, because sometimes you can get a slightly confused sense of where things are, or maybe that was just a controller goof, who knows.
Changing is one of those things. Some runners adamantly refuse to change the camera angle. I know Shorty in particular always wants to know where natural north is. Other runners will change it literally every corner. That's probably what I do usually.
I'm kind of a fan of putting it to what I want to see and then putting it back. But that certainly does occasionally create controller goofs of mine. And we see Resonaire, this time he is the first one to hit 420. In the past couple of races it has been Chai. I'm pretty sure. And we'll see whether or not he can maintain this lead. It is a very small lead that just about anything can happen to, and even with his Earth Shield, he doesn't want to tangle with those Vipers if he doesn't have to. Ooh, elevator luck there. This is an interesting floor layout, basically. In terms of the elevation being quite as dramatic as it is just naturally.
Yeah.
It's big enough that he has a little trouble getting out of the room through that way. though not insurmountable. This is one of those places where I would get a little bit edgy to make sure that Kyun is still with me, because sometimes Kyun doesn't know how to navigate things.
Stripe's picked up a C-Seed, so he might be intending to use it.
Yeah, I would not be too surprised, particularly having a C-Seed makes that a little bit faster. I think this egg is probably... Well, there isn't enough good likelihoods to necessarily go for hatching it, though probably worth picking up. Just as a thing to have, certainly as an egg bomb, you can have hope for it. But no time to stop and consider it, and that is some good elevator luck, even if the trap does have a bit of a sting. Okay, this is a chain. This is exactly what Resonaire needs at this moment to try and maintain his lead. Admittedly, we know that czaj is going to have the elevators in the same place, but a couple of links in this nice little chain he has been based on what decisions he makes. That is something that czaj could maybe lose out on. Maybe lose a little bit more time on, and keep a gap between him and Resonaire. On the other hand, it's very possible that czaj finds the same things and this lead evaporates. Or something terrible happens to one or both of them. It will be interesting to see. For example, I think I wouldn't be surprised if sort of the positioning of that... Oh, that is a lucky warp trap. You can see Resonaire sort of sweating a little bit about... Is this safe? Can I do this? Is there going to be a trap? Is there going to be a bomb trap that destroys this item as I'm delicately, gingerly walking towards it? Also, zoos. Very annoying. They change your monster's AI setting, or can paralyze you. They can paralyze your monster, but if it gets down low enough in terms of AI settings.
Yeah, which is something a lot of people forget when they leave it on AI1.
Yeah, it's something that you can very much prevent if you remember about it. Ooh, stealths. And he chose the location of the stealth wrong. That is some scary business. Interesting that AI1 still works on stealths. That's fascinating.
One very odd little quirk in the game. If you have a flame out, then that prevents the zoo from doing the raw effect on you.
Huh. I know there are a couple of monsters that interact like that, but I'm not sure I can think of any particular folklore-y reason why that ought to be so.
Yeah, that one's probably random, but I know the Griffin preventing Picket from stealing is based on the mythology of Griffin being a hoarder of treasure, protecting its treasures from thieves.
Yeah, that's a cute one. I might look into it sometime. Oh, walked into that zoo. Luckily, it didn't walk into that zoo as badly as it could have happened on Resonaire's side. That could have been... Ooh, Acid Rainball. That is a lovely little thing to pick up.
Yeah, always good to have.
I might return the volcano to home. Or get rid of it entirely, but as it stands, he makes a decision, and I think any decision is a decent one when you're deciding... When you're in a race like this, which is so close and so intense.
Frog followed by a bomb.
Yep, this appears to be a trap room that Resonaire mostly didn't deal with quite as much due to just positioning. He did get hit by that bomb though. And now we see just how small this gap really is. Or we would have had czaj gone straight up and Resonaire not immediately hit another
So he's
little
gone-
elevator train.
One for the water switch on Chai's side. So Kyun is now water type.
We'll see how that plays out. I know that he is mostly out of a position where he really needs to worry about that. In
Well, the
terms
interesting
of
thing is he's just picked up a light seed, so he may be able to switch back fire at the right time. That seems to be his plan.
yeah, that's a fairly solid strategy as long as inventory use goes out. Resonaire carrying that holy scroll so that he can use it to avoid danger pretty much, basically having an extra slot. But now he's trying to think, okay, what do I get? Interesting that well, I suppose in that sense, the Holy Scroll is kind of like a better Olim. A slightly more versatile Olim in that it also removes one monster problem. I think that that's a fair decision. I'm normally just so excited for Olims and so a rush with the pure thrill of being able to just abandon worrying about something that I don't think I would necessarily think about it in those terms usually, but it's a correct set of terms. Resonaire does not check that spell ball. He feels he is good on inventory. He is having so much inventory luck that he frankly does not have the room to worry about it, and so now it is just a matter of finding that elevator. It is hard to come more intense. They are very, very close still, and this race could turn at just about any time. I mean, they're both in like a very good position to continue running and maybe even make it all the way to the top. That would be really exciting to have two full double 40 clears. Here's in this tournament match.
That would be impressive, but yeah, definitely the resources. It's doable if they don't get any crazy rooms. And there's
If
always
the
one
luck
crazy
holds
room.
out. And they certainly admittedly have gotten a lot of elevator luck through the 20s. That has launched them up this far, but it is a very... Oh, there was a stealth in the way of that flame ball. That's not maybe what I would wanted, because if only because the block is so weak to fire. But on the other hand, it may help him get rid of the stealth, so, you know. And this gap will be closing up pretty soon. Due to that elevator luck. And look, they are now only one floor apart. This late into a race. Okay, so that egg is nothing exciting. No.
It is his father's prized familiar, though.
Honestly, I think it does say something that he is changing an egg bomb out for an egg bomb and carrying that other egg bomb. At this point, the Palumpa's ability to damage enemies is probably good enough, I guess.
Yeah,
good enough
the
for that
multiplier
particular
level
purpose.
is quite high, so it multiplies Ko's level by like 4 or something. So the Palumpas can handle monsters. I think it's the Dreamins and the Pickets that really can't do anything when they
Yeah. Pickets are tragic. Jake, when you get them as an egg bomb, it is one of the sadder outcomes. Yeah, this would have been... As Septic Tank, this is a great seed for an 80% run. These have been some fantastic seeds. Also, Resonaire, whose Kyun is now out of MP. That is a dangerous position to be in. And how he gets around that, I guess you feed... Oh, is he going to... Resonaire, no, you don't have time for this. You don't have time for this, Pumpkin. Pumpkin, you do not. Not from, like, 7%. I think at this point I would feed the egg to Kuhn. Or the unicorn egg specifically. This one could probably be something better. But I guess here we are. This is really, I think, the best case scenario for Czaj is that Resonaire gets bogged down being distracted by this egg for a good long while.
Do you remember where he got that egg from? Was that recently?
Yeah, that is the most recent egg. I think he got it here or on 28. I know he got it here, this floor, 29.
It's not much good he can get. Block, but block on his own is not really that good.
Yeah, block is best as part of a team. I think you feed the unicorn to Kuhn and just keep walking. Oh, a stealth. That's completely useless.
Yeah, there's nothing good from 26 to 30. If he knew that, he probably wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, so now he kind of has to figure out what it is he's doing, and that's just giving the unicorn to Kuhn, except now he is down one stealth egg, and that's gotta sting a little bit. But that was quite... You know, I'm willing to bet you probably could clip the whole thing. I don't know. You know, SpeedGaming generally takes care of its archives well enough that that's not a huge need, but it is worth saying that this has been a fantastic set of races. So, rewatching or keeping track of this is certainly a thing to consider. And Resonaire has made it to 30. Steps on a warp track. That is scary.
Not too far from the division, but hopefully he'll get back in time.
Hopefully. A lot here can do a lot of damage, and I can understand being... There we go. He made it safe. That's good. That's good. This would be a sad time for a warp track 10 to run. Because this is certainly within a place where runs can be ended very quickly. Oh, Resonaire, you're not thinking about fighting this killer, are you?
Oh, yeah, but the movement is awkward here around the corner. Oh,
yeah, that worked out. I am a bit surprised. They are very scary to fight because one straight hit is just enough. But Resonaire has nerves of steel today. At this point, the difference between the shields in terms of... Well, I guess actually in Earth... You know, I actually am not entirely sure what element killers are. I don't think I encounter them enough in situations. It's rare enough for a run to get here.
I think that's fire, but I always thought they were wind for a long time until recently.
Their color palette is deceiving.
Yeah.
The fact that they hit you hard feels like fire is correct. The colors, however, suggest wind or water.
Yeah, the colors overall are very confusing.
Well, for some monsters. For some, it's correct and like a generalized assumption.
Well, that's so very confusing for colorblind person, which is myself.
Okay, that's very fair. That's very fair. This game is not super accessible in that department. I mean, it gives you very little information about, oh, that is a lot of things. That is so many things. I think Resonaire... That is a good point, Gonski's Scream, is that the VC version is a little bit clearer in some cases, and certainly has its own advantages as a game to run. Resonaire flipping through his inventory trying to decide what to do. Czaj has caught up, and we very well could see the lead change here. Once he deals with that initial room, he could have the power to more than catch up. depending just on what sort of decisions he makes. He's not going to deal with that guy. I can't blame him. But this is so close. And there's so little time on the clock that czaj takes the lead at 55 minutes. Minutes just at the last couple of junctures, and he is going to take a little bit of an elevator trade. This could be the game maker right here. This could be all of the difference in the world. Resonaire has to keep going quickly if he wants to take this back. And at this point, I think it's very likely that they could end on the same floor. I think that is very real. Well, as a possibility. And so in which case, the person who made it to the floor first would be the winner. In this case, czaj does have the lead, but it's not so big that Resonaire couldn't immediately take it back.
Yeah, I mean, there's enough time for things to change. 4 more minutes.
Yeah, it is worth noting that czaj is a much lower level, but on the other hand, he found this go-up trap, and that is great. That is faster than finding the elevator. Oof. And it's something that Resonaire does not have any sort of guarantee of finding. He'll eventually have to find the elevator if he survives long enough, but go-up trap, who knows?
Yeah, he's losing a bit of time to this first year.
Yeah, they are not the most intimidating, but certainly when you're running fire cues still, they can be pretty spooky, and also their curling can be difficult, and they can curl you a long way in the right setup.
Yep.
On the other hand, czaj is much lower level, and he doesn't have the same defensive options as Resonaire does, and so exactly what happens to him does have a lot of luck into it. But floor 35, could we see a double clear, folks? After this much Azure Dreams, is that a possibility? Certainly, czaj is going to do everything in his power to make his part of the deal happen. Now, that dragon isn't as scary for czaj as it would be for Resonaire, though.
Yeah.
Spell balls are enough in play that he could go past it. Sit fairly safely. He knows where the elevator is, he just has to figure out how to get around this dragon. I don't think he's thought about the fact that it's fire elemental and he's water elemental now, and so, like, he could probably blast through it without too much difficulty. It's not nearly as scary for him as it could be, though he does have less level. That egg would be nice, but no time to grab it. There is only time for up. Oh, this is a scary room. Acid Rain! Acid Rain! Or Holy Bell, either of those two would work.
Yep, this would be the right time for them.
Either way, clears the room, gets him some levels. And it's not enough of an HP boost to really matter, but sometimes the luck just happens in a barong. Don't take the time to deal with that barong, czaj. Just go. Now, this is an enemy that's much more scary for czaj than it is for Resonaire. Golems are pretty strong hitters, and on the other hand, they are wind, and so a spellball charge will do the trick. But now they are once again on the same floor. Whoever finds this elevator first, Resonaire did not have access to that acid rain ball, and or at least did not have access to all of its charges, and so that was a scary prospect. And I think, oh, this is horrifying. Luckily, Chai does have that Holy Bell, and I think that this is the moment for that. Hopefully, they will take an agreeable set of exits.
There we go.
That is the round. I would love to see if they could take it all the way. I hope SpeedGaming will give us that opportunity. Because we're within a... Oh, he got curled off of the elevator. That is so sad. That is like the saddest scenario, curled off the elevator. But Resonaire does not have much to deal with this room as a whole. He has to take them piece by piece, and that's scary. Because that maximum now has time to wake up that otherwise it would not have. But, like, technically, if they both made it to 440, this would be a quadruple 40. We would have 2 double 40s in this race. And that would be a first in the Azure Dreams community. That would be absolutely stunning.
Yeah, excellent.
Chai, I think, probably could have taken out that glacier, and that might have been a slightly better use of its time. On the other hand, it does at least waste a turn with the curling. Alright, nice rock ball. They are once again on the same floor. That doesn't really matter in terms of scoring, but it does matter in terms of this being absolutely thrilling, and I think who makes it to 41st is an open question.
The PBs from the first round, I can't remember how long it took them. Oh, how long... Yeah, they're still beating their PB right now.
Yeah, I think that's very possible. I think that might be the case. That Palimpa didn't last very long, but you are... And it looks like Resonaire found the floor, the elevator to 39. He is right on the precipice. He could go all the way. Wait, if his luck holds out, Disaster could be around just about any corner. Hello, Disaster. Well, I suppose not Disaster yet. That is the advantage of waiting a couple of turns, of waiting while you're a few blocks away. It's a way to get there. And there it is. Resonaire hits 41st, even though Chai wins the match. Fantastic. This is absolutely fantastic. These runners are amazing. Give them both a follow. They absolutely deserve it for the quality of this match. That's... Oof. That is a very hurtful miss over on Chai's side.
Yeah. They want to have like 97% accuracy, so it's unfortunate. No, there goes the dream. There goes the quad 40 dream here on floor 38 for Chai. That is still an amazing run. And he still wins the match. We will see if we'll get them into an interview. Huh? Have we had triple 40s before?
I'm not sure if we have. And that is something someone else will have to keep track of.
See whether Resonaire decides to forgive or dismiss Kuhn.
Yeah, that's gotta
Very
be
important.
an absolutely wild thing for Resonaire, learning that he made it to 40. And Chai beat him based on who got to like floor 38 first.
And he decides to forgive Kuhn.
Okay, the Poulet versus Baldwin finale was a festival of 40s. That's a good way of putting that sort of match. But we'll see if anyone wants in for an interview.
I guess the finals are normally best of 5, aren't they? So they have more chances.
That is true. Those were some stunning matches. And this is what the semifinals and finals of the Azure Dream Stars tournament seems to be holding as its possibilities. I think this will be a thrilling set of matches as we approach the end. We'll see if... I wouldn't be surprised if both of them end up feeling too tired to have an interview. This was a long 3 hours. This was an intense 3 hours. Let's see now. And hopefully that will help us get them in possibly for an interview. I'm not actually entirely sure the controls for this work well enough to be sure. Or is this a thing where we mark them as done? And that's what sends the message out.
I wouldn't know, I'm afraid.
Alright, I will mark them as done and see how that works out. Hello! How about those races? Those were some fantastically intense races.
And trust me, very tiring too.
Oh, I am sure. That must be exhausting.
GG Resonaire, amazing
Unfair.
matches. Thank you.
How close it was all the way through.
Oh, was it?
It was
Very
super close. It was the match was ultimately decided by who got to, I think it was 38 first.
Ah, gotcha. Ah, wow.
38. I got 38 after 1 hour mark, definitely.
Oh, then probably 37. It was one of those 30s because you two basically, after the 20s, you two were neck and neck. Basically almost always on the same floor at the same time. And so the lead was pretty precarious.
I'm going to feel so bad about my egg shenanigans at that 30-something level.
Oh,
Well, do I get it correctly that Resonaire got to floor 40 twice?
Resonaire got to floor 40 twice, and that is
That's amazing. Congratulations.
a round of applause. That was some stunning work. And Chai, you were so close. This could have been a double 40, and that would have been thrilling, but the tower just said no at the end.
Yeah, I was already too tired because I couldn't find the elevator on floor 38. I still had some resources. Maybe I could have gone out of this, but I was already okay. I'm done. I'm sure that I lost this one, so let's just get that over with.
So, am I correct in assuming that it ended 38-36? I think then at that point.
I would double check it because I think that at 1 hour mark I was 36 maybe.
Yeah, that sounds about right. 36 then.
Gotcha. Oh god, that must have
Certainly
been
up
exciting.
in that territory.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and just rewatch because always, tight matches are always fun to watch. So that's gonna be amazing to kind of now see what was actually going on and what I was kind of screwing up with or not. So that's going to be fun.
Here is a thing which ultimately didn't negatively impact your effect on the match, but did you know, Resonaire, that the Gulf Wand doesn't actually affect Clown's mixture magic with, like, Thunder Wave?
Oh, I did not. No, I was absolutely certain it actually affected. I had no idea.
Oh yeah.
No, because it is ranged magic, it doesn't take into account what Ko has equipped. It is basically as if the Clown were casting a damaging spell, but it also does have a ranged magic that's pretty useful. If you access it through the menu.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
No, I never realized that. I've activated it before at range. That much I was certain, but I don't know. I guess I was mistaken in thinking that the wand actually affected it. So I'll keep that in mind for next time. Yeah, I always get so nervous with eggs. Like, I am not the most knowledgeable player when it comes to like what kind of fusions are going to be advantageous, etc. So I always, anytime I find it out, I only get nervous.
So I stated all the time, and for the U-boat too. You actually, because you did one re-entry, whereas Chai didn't, you actually managed to catch up again with that U-boat, and you were pretty close.
So you had U-boat and Clown in second.
No, first place was Clown.
Right.
Oh, okay. I don't recall finding Clown, so yeah.
It was on a floor, I think it might have been 8 or so, where you spawned in with the elevator and Resonaire, and I thought that was an interesting and pretty risky move.
Yeah, I always like checking floor 8 and 9. It's always a bad idea, but
well, it paid off, so apparently it was a good idea.
Yeah, that first match it paid off, but it's not paid off more often than not. So like, I keep doing it. I don't know. My casual instincts kick in, and then the U-boat, I found it on the second match as a second re-entry, where I think we were only like at the end we were 2 floors apart, and I lost CUNY. The re-entry was actually because I had lost CUNY. I was still in floor 11. We were about 25 minutes in, and I figured, you know what, I'll just do it. I'll just wind out and wind crystal out and just try again. We'll see what happens. So.
Yeah, I mean, you almost. Yeah, it's really good.
Well, thank you everyone, and that was amazing, and I'm excited to rewatch the entire matches. So.
Oh yeah, it is a thrilling one to rewatch.
Oh yeah, I want to watch both, like all of those games. I want to see what did I miss in the second re-entry, and you can see, like, I think in game 3 it was that, like, I was already on the elevator, and Glacier said no and just pushed me out of it with the rock. Like, that was like, what? Seriously?
It was extremely rude.
Definitely.
That's awesome. Well, obviously, good luck in the next matches, Chad. This is going to be a fun tournament to just end up watching the final for. I'm excited. And now you got to win, so that way I can say I went to the winner. I lost to the winner. So,
is there a third place match as well for this one?
Yes, there is a bronze match, so you will get a chance to take bronze.
Good luck with your match.
Right. Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for just sticking around for all matches and making this happen.
Yeah, this was a marathon of a run. And I'd like to thank both of the runners. I would like to thank the folks at SpeedGaming for allowing us this pretty sizable block of time, particularly because we had things go over to try and get you guys to 40 on a couple of those.
Thank you. So great.
And thank you, Hextree, for co-commentating, and I think that about covers it. If you want to learn more about Azure Dreams or follow the rest of this tournament, there's a link to the Discord and chat.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. And Chai, GG, man, that was a lot of fun, and good luck.
GG. Thank you, everybody.
Good job, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.